Hi guys. Tonight we drift quietly into the world of the Vikings to see how they stayed warm in the freezing winter. The sun is sinking behind the hills. The air is turning very cold. It feels like ice against your cheeks. The wind is coming off the fields like a cold river, finding every gap in your clothes. You can hear the dry grass snapping under your boots as you walk through the deep white snow. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you want to let me know where you are listening from and what time it is where you are. I always love seeing those little snapshots of the world. Now dim the lights and let the story begin. You are walking across a wide flat field in a land far to the north. Everything around you is white and grey. The sky is the colour of a heavy stone and the sun has just slipped away, leaving a soft blue light over the snow. You feel the weight of your boots as they sink into the drifts. Each step makes a loud crunching sound. It is the only sound in the world right now. The wind is sharp, like a cold needle, but you are wrapped in many layers of thick wool. This wool is special. It is called vatmau. It is a plain, hand-woven cloth that the people here make on big wooden frames. It is heavy and a bit scratchy, but it is very good at keeping the heat of your body close to your skin. You can feel the weight of the woolen cloak on your shoulders. It is pinned at your right shoulder with a small piece of iron so that your sword arm is free, even though you are not looking for a fight tonight. You are only looking for a place to sleep. You look ahead and see a low shape rising out of the snow. At first it looks like a hill, but then you see a small glow of orange light. This is the Longhouse. It is a very long building, maybe 30 meters from one end to the other. In this time, houses are built big so that many people can live together. Staying together is how people stay alive when the frost is deep. You stop for a moment and look up. The clouds are moving away, and the first few stars are starting to blink in the dark sky. The air is so cold that it hurts your nose when you breathe in, but it is also very fresh and clean. You stand very still. There is no noise of cars or machines. There is only the sound of your own breath and the distant moan of the wind in the trees. You feel very small under the big dark sky, but the sight of the Longhouse makes you feel safe. It is a solid place, built to stand against the worst storms of the north. You start walking again, moving toward the light. As you get closer, you see that the house is not made of stone or brick. The walls are very thick and are covered in layers of green and brown turf. Turf is just blocks of earth with the grass still growing on them. The people here cut the turf from the fields and stack it up to make walls that are almost a metre thick. This earth keeps the cold out and the warmth in. It is like the house is wearing a thick coat made of the ground itself. The roof is also covered in grass. In the summer, flowers might grow up there, and maybe a goat would climb up to eat the sweet green blades. But now, the roof is covered in a thick blanket of white snow. The snow actually helps keep the house warm. It sits on top of the grass and acts like a lid on a pot, stopping the heat from the fire from escaping too fast. You reach the end of the Longhouse. You can smell something now. It is a rich, earthy smell. It smells like wood smoke, dried hay, and old cooking. It is a smell that means people and warmth. You see a small window, but it has no glass. Glass is very rare and expensive. Instead, the window is covered with a thin piece of sheepskin that has been stretched until it is clear. A soft flickering light shines through it, casting a warm orange glow onto the snow at your feet. You move toward the heavy wooden door. It is made of thick oak planks, held together with iron bolts. You reach out and touch the wood. It feels cold and rough under your hand. You can hear voices inside. They are low and calm. Someone is singing a simple song, and you can hear the soft thud of a rhythmic beat. It feels like the house is alive, breathing out heat into the freezing night. You take a deep breath of the cold air one last time. You look back at the dark woods and the white fields. The world out there is beautiful, but it is not kind to those who stay out in the dark. You're glad to be at the door. You pull on the leather strap that opens the latch. The door creaks on its iron hinges, and a wave of warm, smoky air hits your face. It feels wonderful. It is like a warm hug after a long time in the cold. As you step over the high wooden ledge of the doorway, you leave the winter behind. You are now inside the Longhouse. The floor is made of hard, packed earth. It feels solid under your boots. The room is very long and narrow. In the very center of the room, there is a long pit dug into the ground. This is the fire trench. Fires are burning all the way down the middle of the house. The flames jump and dance, throwing long shadows against the walls. You stand there for a moment, just letting your skin warm up. Your nose begins to tingle as the blood comes back to your face. You reach up and pull back the hood of your woolen cloak. Your hair feels a little damp from the melting frost. You see people sitting on long wooden benches that run along the sides of the walls. They look up and nod at you. No one is in a hurry. In the winter, time moves slowly. There is no farm work to do in the frozen fields, so the nights are for resting and staying close to the flames. You see a man sitting near the fire. He is wearing a simple tunic of undyed wool and leather trousers. He is holding a small piece of wood and a sharp knife. He is slowly carving a pattern into the wood. He does not look up, but he moves a bit to make space for you on the bench. You walk over and sit down. The wood of the bench is smooth and polished from years of people sitting on it. You look at the fire. The logs are big and heavy. They are made of birch and oak. The fire does not just give light, it gives life. Without this fire, the longhouse would be as cold as a cave. You watch a small spark fly up from the wood. It rises high into the dark space of the ceiling. There is no chimney like we have today. Instead, there are small holes in the roof to let the smoke out. Most of the smoke stays up high, near the roof, forming a grey cloud that hangs over the room. It makes your eyes sting a little bit, but you soon get used to it. The smoke also helps to keep the wood of the roof dry and stops bugs from living in the straw. You feel the heat of the fire on your shins. It is a deep, glowing heat. You reach out your hands and the warmth sinks into your bones. You look down at your clothes. Your Vadmal cloak is starting to steam as the snow on it melts. The smell of wet wool fills the air around you. It is a homely smell. The longhouse is not just a place to sleep. It is a place where everything happens. You see a woman at the far end of the room. She is stirring a large iron pot that hangs over the fire on a thick chain. The pot is full of a thick stew made of dried meat and grains. The steam from the pot smells like onions and salty broth. You feel a pang of hunger, but you are happy just to sit still for now. You notice how the house is built. There are big wooden posts that go from the floor to the roof. These posts are carved with simple lines and shapes. They hold up the heavy weight of the turf roof. Between the posts and the outer walls, there are raised platforms. These are covered in soft hay and animal skins. This is where people sit during the day and where they will sleep when the fire burns low. You lean back against the thick turf wall. Even though it is made of earth, it does not feel damp. The heat of the long fire has dried it out until it is as hard as a rock. You can feel the strength of the building. It does not shake when the wind hits it. It just hums quietly. You close your eyes for a second. The sound of the fire is like a heartbeat, crackle, pop, the low murmur of the people talking, the soft scrape of the knife on wood. You think about the miles of snow you just walked through. Out there, the frost is turning the water to ice and the ground to stone. But in here, you are wrapped in a shell of earth and wood. You are part of the night shift of the past. Your job is simply to keep the fire going, to keep the house warm, and to make sure everyone stays safe until the sun comes back. The man next to you finishes his carving and sets it down. He looks at you and smiles. He has lines around his eyes from squinting at the sea and the sun. He looks tired, but he looks peaceful. In the winter, everyone is a bit tired. The body wants to sleep more when the days are short. You feel your own eyelids getting heavy. The warmth is making you feel very relaxed. You look around the room again. You see a small pile of dried peat near the fire. Peat is like bricks made of old, dried bog plants. It burns slowly and holds the heat for a long time. When the wood runs out, the peat will keep the house warm through the darkest part of the night. You take a deep breath. The air is thick and warm. You feel a sense of peace that you only find in a place that is truly safe. The walls are thick, the fire is bright, and the people are kind. You are ready to see more of this house, but for now, you are happy just to sit. You are happy to be out of the wind. You are happy to be warm. The night is long, but the longhouse is strong. You watch the flames dance and feel the heavy weight of the wool on your lap. Everything is quiet. Everything is still. You are safe in the heart of the winter. You stand up from the wooden bench and walk slowly toward the middle of the long room. You want to see how this great house is made. You look up toward the roof, and it feels very high above you. The shadows from the fire dance on the ceiling. As you look at the way the wood is put together, you realize something strange. The house does not have straight walls, like the houses you know. The walls curve, they bend gently outward and then back in, just like the sides of a big ship. This is not by accident. The people who built this house are people of the sea. They spend their summers on the water in long, narrow boats. When they come home to build their houses, they use the same shapes that they trust on the ocean. You look at the big wooden beams that hold up the roof. They are like the ribs of a big whale, or the frame of an overturned boat. It feels as if a giant has taken a massive ship and flipped it upside down to keep the rain and snow off your head. The walls are made of 2 layers of wood with a very thick filling of earth and turf in between. You walk over to the wall and place your hand against it. In some places you can see the dark, rich soil. In other places, the wall is lined with smooth planks of pine wood. You run your fingers over the wood. It feels warm and a bit oily. This is because the smoke from the fire has coated the wood over many years. This coating of soot and oil actually helps to protect the wood. It stops it from rotting in the damp air. There is a very smart trick the Vikings used to keep the water out. You look closely at a spot where the roof meets the wall. Under the thick layers of grass and dirt, there is a layer of birch bark. This is your micro-history detail for tonight. The people would go into the woods and peel long, thin strips of bark from birch trees. They would lay these strips over the wooden roof boards like fish scales. Birch bark has a natural oil in it that makes it like a waterproof coat. Even when the heavy snow melts or the autumn rain falls for days, the birch bark keeps the inside of the house dry. It is a simple but very clever way to use what the forest gives them. You stand in the center of the hall and look from one end to the other. The house is very long. Because the walls are curved, the wind cannot hit the house flat on. When the gales blow in from the North Sea, the wind just slides around the rounded walls. It is like the house is cutting through the wind, just like a ship cuts through the waves. This historical fact is why these houses lasted so long. They were built to work with the weather, not against it. You look at the grass roof from the inside. You can see the heavy beams that run the length of the house. They are dark with age and smoke. You see small bundles of dried herbs hanging from the beams. There is mint and wild thyme. The heat from the fire makes the herbs release a tiny bit of their sweet smell, which mixes with the smell of the burning wood. You take a slow, deep breath. The air is heavy, but it feels good. It feels like a place where things are kept safe and sound. The walls are so thick that you cannot hear the wind anymore. You know it is blowing hard outside because you can see the smoke at the top of the roof being poured through the smoke hole. But inside it is very still. The turf acts like a giant blanket wrapped around the whole family. You think about how much work it must have been to cut all that turf. Thousands of heavy blocks of earth were lifted and stacked to make this home. It shows how much the people cared about staying warm. You walk a little further down the hall. The floor is made of clay and earth that has been stepped on so many times it is as hard as stone. You can see the marks of boots and the prints of dogs in the floor. It is a floor that tells a story of many winters. You find a spot where the light from the fire is soft and low. You stop walking and just stand there in the silence. The only sound is the soft hiss of a piece of wood in the fire that still has a bit of sap inside it. You look at the way the light hits the curved walls. It feels like you are inside a living thing. The house is made of wood from the forest, earth from the fields, and bark from the trees. It is a part of the land itself. You feel a deep sense of calm. There is no need to worry about the ice outside. The thick walls are standing guard. You look at the corner of the room where the shadows are darkest. You see a large wooden loom. It is a frame used for weaving cloth. It leans against the wall, waiting for the morning light. The heavy stone weights hang from the bottom of the threads. Everything in this house has a job to do. The loom makes the clothes, the fire makes the heat, and the turf walls keep the life inside from blowing away. You reach out and touch one of the main wooden posts. It is thick, as wide as a man's chest. You can feel the strength in it. This post goes deep into the ground and high into the roof. It has held up this house through many storms. You feel very small next to it, but you also feel protected. The house is big enough for everyone, but it feels small and cozy because of the low light and the warmth of the fire. You think about the shape of the house again. It is a shape that people have used for hundreds of years. They found what worked and they stuck with it. A house that is shaped like a boat is a house that knows how to survive. You imagine the house as it looks from the outside right now. A long, low hill of white snow with a small plume of grey smoke rising from the top. Underneath all that snow and dirt, you are sitting in a warm wooden world. You move back toward the bench near the fire. The heat feels different now that you have touched the cold walls. You understand that the fire is the heart, but the turf is the skin. Both are needed to stay alive in this place. You sit down and let your muscles go soft. The wood of the bench is solid and real. You look at your hands in the firelight. They look orange and warm. The house is a masterpiece of simple thinking. No one needed to go to a big school to learn how to build this. They learned by watching their fathers and grandfathers. They learned by listening to the land. They knew that the earth would keep them warm if they treated it right. They knew that the birch bark would keep them dry. You lean your head back against the wall. The turf is slightly soft, like a very firm cushion. You can feel the history of the house in the smell of the wood. It is a smell that has been building up for a long time. It is the smell of 100 fires and 1,000 meals. It is the smell of home. You close your eyes for a moment and just listen to the house. It makes small creaking noises as the wood settles in the heat. It is a happy sound. It is the sound of a house doing its job. You are starting to feel very heavy. The walk through the snow was long, and the warmth of the longhouse is like a heavy blanket. You are not ready for bed yet, but you are very close. You want to see the rest of the house first. You want to see where the animals stay and where the food is kept. But for now, you just enjoy the feeling of being inside the boathouse. You feel like a traveler who has finally found a safe port. The storm can blow all it wants, but it cannot get to you here. You are safe behind the thick walls of earth and wood. You are warm under the grass roof. You are at peace. You lean closer to the wall and take a long, slow breath through your nose. There is a very strong smell here that you might not expect. It is the smell of the earth. It is a deep, damp, and rich scent. It smells like a forest floor after a heavy rain. This is the smell of the turf walls. Even though the fire is burning and the air is warm, the earth inside the walls still holds a little bit of the smell of the outdoors. It is not a bad smell. It is a very natural and grounding smell. It reminds you that you are protected by the very ground you walk on. You reach out and touch a spot where the wooden planks do not cover the wall. Your fingers press into the dark soil. It feels firm, but it has a tiny bit of give to it. This wall is not just dirt thrown into a pile. It was built with a lot of care. The men who built this house used a special tool called a turf spade. It has a long handle and a sharp, flat blade. This is your micro-history detail for this part of our journey. With this spade, they cut long strips of grass and soil from the meadow. They called these strips strengri, which means strings. They would roll these strips up or lay them flat, one on top of the other, like they were building with very heavy, hairy bricks. As you run your hand over the turf, you notice that it does not feel cold. This is the secret of the longhouse. Earth is one of the best things in the world for keeping heat where you want it. In the summer, these thick walls keep the inside of the house cool and fresh. But now, in the heart of the winter, they do something even more important. They catch the heat from the long fire and hold on to it. The heat cannot get through the thick layers of dirt and grass. It hits the wall and bounces back towards you. It is like being inside a giant clay oven that is cooling down very, very slowly. In many places where the Vikings lived, like Iceland or the rocky parts of the coast, there were not many big trees. They could not build houses entirely out of wood because they needed to save the wood for their ships. This is an important historical fact to remember. The Vikings were very clever at using what they had. Since they had more grass and dirt than they had tall trees, they learned to build with the earth. They found that a turf house was actually much warmer than a house made only of thin wood. The earth did not have gaps that the wind could whistle through. It was solid. It was heavy. It was silent. You stand very still by the wall and turn your head to the side. You try to hear the world outside. You try to hear the world outside. You know the wind is still blowing. You know the snow is still falling in the dark. But here against the turf there is no sound at all. The earth is a wonderful silencer. It swallows the sound of the storm. It makes the longhouse feel like a quiet bubble in a noisy world. You feel a deep sense of calm as you realize how quiet it is. In our world, there is always some kind of noise car in the distance, a humming light or the sound of a heater. But here, the silence is thick and soft. Take a moment now to just listen to that silence. The only thing you hear is the very faint thump of a sheep's hoof at the far end of the house. Other than that, the world is perfectly still. This stillness is part of the magic of the turf walls. They don't just keep you warm, they keep you peaceful. You feel as if you are tucked away in a secret place where the winter cannot find you. You look down at the base of the wall. There are small stones tucked into the bottom to keep the turf from touching the damp floor too much. Everything has been thought about. The people who lived here knew that if the bottom of the wall got too wet, it might start to slump. So they used a line of heavy rocks to give the earth a strong foundation. You can see the grey stones peeking out from under the dark soil. They look cold, but they are doing a big job. They are holding up the weight of the whole world above you. The smell of the earth starts to mix more with the smell of the wood smoke. It is a very old smell. It is the smell of humans trying to stay safe for thousands of years. You imagine the families who sat here before you. They would have smelled this same damp earth. They would have felt this same heavy silence. It makes you feel connected to them. You are all part of the same story, the story of finding a warm place in a cold land. You walk a few steps back toward the fire, but you keep looking at the walls. You notice that the grass on the outside of the walls is still alive, even under the snow. The roots of the grass grow into the blocks of turf and knit them together. It is like the house has 1,000 tiny fingers holding the walls tight. This means the house actually gets stronger as it gets older. The grass roots turn the blocks of dirt into one solid piece of earth. It is a living building. You think about the color of the walls. In the low light of the fire, the turf looks almost black. But where the light hits it, you can see bits of brown and even a few yellow strands of old, dried grass. It is a very honest way to live. There is no paint or wallpaper here. There is only the earth, the wood, and the stone. It feels very real and very solid under your feet and around your shoulders. You sit back down on your bench and pull your cloak tighter. The warmth of the fire is now being helped by the warmth held in the walls. You can feel the heat coming at you from two sides now. It is a very heavy, sleepy kind of warmth. It makes your muscles feel like they are melting. You look at the long fire pit and see the orange glow reflecting off the dark turf. It looks like gold buried in the ground. You realize that being in this house is a bit like being a seed buried in the soil during the winter. Out there, the frost is trying to break everything. But in here, under the turf, life is waiting. You are tucked away, safe and sound, waiting for the spring. But for now, the spring is a long way off, and that is okay. You have everything you need. You have the fire, you have the thick walls, and you have the silence. The damp smell of the earth reminds you that the ground is always there to support you. It is a very steady feeling. You don't have to worry about the roof blowing off or the walls shaking. The earth is too heavy for the wind to move. You feel a sense of weight in your own body. A good kind of weight. It is the weight of being relaxed. It is the weight of knowing you don't have to go anywhere else tonight. You watch a small curl of smoke drift toward the wall. It touches the turf and then floats upward. The wall is like a giant sponge that soaks up the heat and the light. You feel very grateful for the people who cut those strips of grass. You feel grateful for the tired men who stacked the earth so high. Their hard work means that you can sit here in the dark and feel as warm as if it were a summer afternoon. The Longhouse is a very simple place, but it is also very clever. It uses the cold ground to fight the cold air. It uses the weight of the earth to create a place that feels light and safe. You close your eyes for a second and just breathe in that earthy scent. It is the smell of safety. It is the smell of home. You are deep inside the heart of the Viking winter, and the earth is holding you close. You feel the peace of the soil sinking into your heart. The night is moving on, but the walls are not going anywhere. They are standing guard, thick and strong, just as they have for 100 years. You are safe. You are warm. You are quiet. You turn your head to look back at the big door you just walked through. It is the only way in or out of this part of the Longhouse. Now that you are sitting in the warmth, you can really look at it. The door is not like the thin, light doors we have in our homes today. It is a very heavy and thick piece of work. It is made from 2 layers of oak wood. The planks of wood go up and down on one side and side to side on the other. This makes the door very strong. It will not warp or bend, no matter how much the rain or snow beats against it. You look at the ironwork on the door. This is your microhistory detail for this part of our night. You see a large round iron ring. This is the handle. It is fixed to a heavy iron plate that has been hammered into the shape of a leaf. The iron is dark and has a rough feel to it. Near the ring, there is a small hole. A thick leather cord hangs through this hole. When you are outside, you pulled that cord to lift the wooden bar on the inside. It is a very simple way to keep a door locked. Once you are inside, you can pull the cord through so that no one can open the door from the outside. It makes you feel very safe to know that the heavy wooden bar is now resting in its slot, holding the door tight against the frame. There is something very special about the way the door is built. You notice that you had to step up very high to get over the bottom of the door frame. This high wooden ledge is called a threshold. In a Viking Longhouse, the threshold is often quite high off the ground, sometimes reaching up to your shins. There is a very smart reason for this, and it is a great historical fact. Because cold air is heavier than warm air, the cold air likes to crawl along the floor. By making the door step high, the Vikings created a sort of cold trap. The heavy freezing air from outside hits that high wooden ledge and cannot just slide into the house. It stays down low by the door while the warm air from the fire stays up where the people are sitting. It is a simple piece of building work that keeps the whole house much warmer. You watch as a small bit of frost on the iron latch begins to melt. A single drop of water runs down the dark metal and falls onto the dirt floor. It is the last bit of the winter trying to stay with you, but the heat of the fire is too strong. You feel a great sense of relief that you are on this side of the door. You can still hear the wind. It makes a low whistling sound as it tries to find a way through the cracks. But there are no cracks. The door fits perfectly into its frame, which is made of heavy timber posts. The door is also quite low. Even a person of middle height has to duck their head a little bit to come inside. This was done for two reasons. First, a smaller opening means less heat can escape when the door is opened. Second, it was a way to keep the house safe. If an enemy tried to come inside, they would have to bend down and step over that high threshold. This would make them move slowly and carefully, giving the people inside the chance to see who was coming. But tonight, there are no enemies. There is only the wind and the snow. You look at the floor, right by the door. There is a heavy mat made of twisted straw. It is there for you to wipe the snow off your boots, so you do not make the rest of the floor muddy. You remember doing that just a few minutes ago. The straw felt crunchy under your feet. Now that straw is damp and quiet. Everything near the door is a little bit cooler than the rest of the room, but it still feels like a dream compared to the freezing world outside. You think about the wood of the door again. Oak is a very hard wood. It takes a long time to grow and a long time to carve. To make a door like this, the Vikings would use an axe to split a large log down the middle. They did not use saws like we do. They used the natural grain of the wood to make the planks. This made the wood much stronger. You can see the marks of the axe on the surface of the door. Each mark tells a story of a man swinging a heavy tool, working hard to make a home that would last for many years. You take a moment of silence to just look at that door. You think about the world on the other side. Out there, the darkness is total. The trees are shaking, and the snow is piling up against the turf walls. But that door is the line between the wild world and the human world. On this side there is fire and light, and the smell of food. On that side, there is only the cold. You feel a deep warmth in your chest, knowing that the bar is down and the latch is shut. The silence in the room is soft. You can hear the wood in the fire tick as it gets hotter. You can hear the soft breathing of the other people on the benches. You realize that the door is not just a way in. It is a shield. It is the shield of the house. Just as a Viking would carry a round wooden shield into a fight, the house carries this oak door to fight the winter. And tonight, the house is winning. You lean back and watch the way the firelight hits the iron ring on the door. It shines with a dull red light. It looks like a small eye watching over the room. You feel your muscles relax even more. Your shoulders, which were tight against the cold wind, finally drop down. Your hands, which were clenched into fists in your pockets, now lie open and warm on your lap. The heavy door has done its job. It has shut the door on the rest of the world. You think about how many people have walked through that door. Brides coming to their new home, old men coming in from the fields, and children running in to get away from the rain. The wood has been touched by thousands of hands. The iron ring has been turned so many times that it is smooth and shiny in some spots. This door is a part of the family. It is the first thing they see when they come home, and the last thing they touch when they leave for the sea. You imagine the snow outside getting deeper. It might even start to pile up against the bottom of the door. That is okay. The snow will act like even more insulation. It will seal the bottom of the door even tighter. By the time morning comes, you might have to push hard to get the door open. But for now, you don't want to open it at all. You are happy to stay right where you are. The air near the door is a little bit fresher than the air near the fire. It has a tiny hint of the cold night in it. It smells like clean ice and frozen pine needles. You like this smell. It reminds you of how powerful the winter is, which makes the warmth of the longhouse feel even more special. You take a slow breath of this fresh air. It clears your head and makes you feel awake, but very calm. You look at the heavy timber frame that holds the door. It is made of 2 upright posts and a thick beam across the top. These pieces of wood are joined together with wooden pegs. There are no metal nails here. The wood is held to wood, growing together as the house settles into the earth. It is a very honest and simple way to build. It shows that the people here know their materials. They know how wood moves and how it breathes. You feel a sense of peace looking at the door. It is a very solid thing in an uncertain world. As long as that door stays shut and the fire stays bright, nothing can hurt you. The cold can howl and the frost can bite, but they cannot get past the oak and the iron. You are safe in the night shift of the Viking Age. Your only task is to listen to the story of the house and let yourself drift towards sleep. You watch the way the shadows move across the door planks. They look like ghosts dancing in the dark, but they are friendly shadows. They are part of the warmth. You close your eyes for a second and picture the door in your mind. You see the heavy bar, the iron ring, and the high threshold. You feel the weight of it. It is a good weight. It is the weight of protection. You are now truly settled. You have seen the walls and the door. You have felt the fire and the wall. The longhouse has taken you in and made you its own. You are no longer a stranger in the snow. You are a guest in a warm hall. The night is moving along and the fire is getting even better. You turn your eyes away from the door and look back toward the long fire pit in the middle of the room. That is where the light is strongest. That is where the heart of the house is beating. You are ready to move deeper into the story, leaving the cold world far behind on the other side of the heavy oak door. You turn your attention away from the door and look down at the floor in the very center of the longhouse. Running almost the whole length of the room is a long, narrow pit. This is the long fire, the most important part of the entire home. It is not just one small fire in a corner. It is a great trench of heat and light that cuts through the darkness of the hall. The pit is lined with heavy grey stones that have been pulled from the local river. These stones are very important because they catch the heat from the flames and hold it long after the wood has turned to ash. In the middle of this trench, the logs are piled high. The wood is mostly birch, which burns with a bright, cheerful flame and a sweet, woody smell. You watch the fire as it moves. It is like a living thing, breathing and shifting. The flames are orange, yellow, and a deep, glowing red at the bottom. This fire never really goes out during the winter. This is a key historical fact of the night shift in the Viking Age. Someone is always awake, or at least sleeping very lightly, to make sure the fire stays alive. If the fire were to die in the middle of a freezing night, the house would turn into an icebox very quickly. You see a tool resting near the edge of the stone pit. It is a long iron rod with a small hook at the end. This is a fire dog or a poker. This is your microhistory detail. It is made of dark, heavy iron and has been hammered by a blacksmith until it is strong and smooth. You reach out and pick it up. It feels cold at the handle but gets warmer as you move your hand toward the hook. You use it to gently push a heavy log back into the center of the flames. A shower of tiny golden sparks flies up into the air, dancing for a second before they vanish into the smoky shadows of the roof. The heat from the long fire is very different from the heat of a modern heater. It is a heavy heat. You can feel it pushing against your skin, warming you right through to your bones. It makes the air shimmer and wobble if you look across the room. Because the fire is so long, everyone sitting on the benches can feel the warmth at the same time. No one is left out in the cold. It is a communal heat, shared by the whole family and their guests. You lean back on your bench and watch the way the smoke rises. There is a very soft, low sound coming from the fire. It is a mixture of crackle, hiss, and pop. Sometimes a pocket of air or sap inside the wood gets too hot and bursts, making a loud snap that echoes off the turf walls. It is a comforting sound. It is the sound of the house staying alive. Without that sound, the longhouse would feel too quiet, like a tomb. But with the fire, it feels like a heart is beating in the middle of the room. Take a moment now to just listen to that fire. The stones around the fire are starting to glow with a soft, dull heat. You notice that some of the stones are cracked. This happens over many years because the heat is so intense. These cracks are like the wrinkles on an old man's face. They show how much the fire has worked to keep people warm. You feel a great deal of respect for this fire. It is the only thing standing between you and the ice giants of the winter. The long fire also provides almost all the light in the house. There are no lamps on the walls and no candles on the tables. The orange glow of the fire creates a world of light and shadow. Where you are sitting, the light is bright enough to see the weave of your woolen clothes. But just a few steps back, the shadows are thick and dark. This makes the house feel very large and mysterious. You can only see what the fire wants you to see. It keeps your world small and focused on the warmth. You see a large iron tripod standing over one part of the fire. It is 3 long legs of iron joined at the top with a heavy chain hanging down. At the end of the chain is a big cooking pot. The pot is bubbling slowly, and every now and then a bit of the liquid drips into the fire, making a sharp test sound. The smell of the cooking food mixes with the smell of the birch smoke. It is a rich, salty smell that makes your mouth water. The long fire is the center of everything. It is where stories are told, where clothes are dried, and where plans are made. You feel like you could watch the flames forever. They are never the same from one second to the next. The way the wood turns from brown to black and then to a glowing white ash is very relaxing to watch. It reminds you that everything has a cycle. The wood gives its life to give you heat, and in the morning, the ash will be used to clean the floors or make soap. Nothing is wasted. You feel the weight of your own body getting heavier. The heat is like a soft hand pressing you down into the bench. You are not cold at all now. In fact, you feel a little bit too warm. So you unpin your cloak and let it fall back over your shoulders. The air in your arms feels cool for a second, but then the fire finds you again. It is a wonderful feeling to be so warm that you have to move away from the heat. You look at the very bottom of the fire pit. There is a deep bed of glowing coals. These coals are the secret to the fire's strength. They are much hotter than the flames themselves. They look like a city of tiny burning jewels. This bed of coals will stay hot all night long. Even if the big logs burn away, the coals will keep the stones warm, and the stones will keep the air warm. It is a very clever system that the Vikings perfected over hundreds of years. The long fire is a symbol of safety. As long as you can see that orange glow, you know you are okay. You think about how people in the past must have felt when they saw the smoke rising from their longhouse after a long day of hunting or travel. It was the signal that says, here is warmth, here is food, here is rest. You feel very lucky to be sitting by the fire tonight. You are part of the night shift, the guardian of the flame. Your only job is to stay relaxed and let the warmth of the longhouse carry you towards sleep. The room is very peaceful. The light from the long fire is soft and golden. It turns the simple wooden beams into something that looks like amber. You close your eyes for a moment and just feel the heat on your face. It feels like a summer sun, even though you know there is a blizzard just a few feet away. The long fire is a little piece of summer that the Vikings kept inside their homes all winter long. You breathe in the sweet birch smoke and let out a long, slow sigh. You are safe. You are warm. The fire is burning bright. You lean your head back and look up toward the very top of the longhouse. High above the long fire, the roof disappears into a thick grey cloud. This is the smoke from the birch logs. Because there are no chimneys in this time, the smoke does not have a narrow pipe to travel through. Instead, it rises slowly and fills the upper part of the room. It hangs there like a soft, heavy blanket of fog. You watch a single curl of blue-grey smoke as it twists and turns, climbing higher and higher until it reaches the very peak of the roof. In the very center of the roof, right above the fire, there is a rectangular opening. This is the smoke hole, and the Vikings called it the Jory. This is your microhistory detail for this section. The Jory is more than just a hole. It is the lungs of the house. It lets the building breathe. Without it, the room would fill with too much smoke, and it would be hard to see or breathe. But the Vikings were clever. They placed the hole at the highest point, so the warm smoke, which always wants to go up, would find its way out into the night air. You notice that the smoke does not all leave at once. It forms a thick layer that stays about 2 meters above the floor. This is actually a good thing. A simple historical fact is that this layer of smoke helped to keep the house warm. It acted like an extra bit of insulation, trapping the heat below it. It also served another purpose. The smoke was very good at keeping the wooden roof beams dry and free from tiny bugs that like to eat wood. The soot from the fire coated everything high up, turning the wood a deep, shiny black. This black coating helped the wood last for 100 years without rotting. You watch the smoke hole closely. Because it is a clear night, you can see a single bright star twinkling way up high in the dark sky. It looks like a tiny diamond set in a frame of black wood. Every now and then, a snowflake drifts down through the hole. You watch it fall, a tiny white speck against the darkness. But before the snowflake can reach the floor, the heat from the long fire catches it. The snowflake vanishes in a tiny puff of steam, turning back into the air before it can even touch the ground. It is a lovely thing to watch the cold winter trying to get in, and the warm fire pushing it back out. The smell of the smoke is very strong, but it is not unpleasant. It smells like dried wood, old earth, and a hint of the salty sea. Your eyes might sting just a little bit if you stand up too tall, so you stay low on your bench. Down here, near the floor, the air is much clearer. The Vikings knew that the best air was always close to the ground. That is why the benches and the beds are built at this height. They lived their lives under the smoke, in the clear, warm space created by the fire. Take a moment of silence now to just watch the way the light from the fire hits the smoke. The flames throw long, flickering beams of orange light upward. These beams hit the smoke and make it glow. It looks like a slow-moving river of gold flowing across the ceiling. You feel very peaceful watching this movement. It is slow and steady. There is no rush in the way the smoke rises. It takes its time, swirling around the heavy oak beams before it finally finds the opening to the outside world. You think about the night shift again. Outside, the wind is pulling the smoke away from the roof hole as soon as it escapes. The wind is trying to reach inside, but the pressure of the rising heat keeps it out. It is a perfect balance. The house gives a little bit of its warmth to the sky, and in return, the sky lets the house breathe. You feel a sense of harmony in this. The people who built this house understood how to live with the air and the fire. You notice a long wooden pole leaning against a post near the fire. At the top of the pole is a small flat board. This is used to cover the smoke hole if the weather gets too wild. If a great storm comes, or if the rain falls too hard, someone will use the pole to slide a wooden cover over the lorry. This keeps the house dry, but they can only do it for a short time, or the room will get too smoky. Tonight the weather is cold, but calm enough to keep the hole open. You like being able to see that one little star. It reminds you that the big, wide world is still out there, even while you are tucked away in this earthy cocoon. The smoke also does one more job. You look up and see several large pieces of meat hanging from the rafters, right in the path of the rising smoke. There are sides of bacon and long strings of fish. The smoke slowly dries the meat and gives it a flavor that will keep it good to eat all through the winter. This was the Viking way of a refrigerator. The fire did not just cook the food. The smoke saved the food for later. You can smell the salt in the preserved meat mixing with the birch wood. It is the smell of a full larder and a safe winter. You feel your breathing slow down as you watch the rhythmic dance of the smoke. It is very hypnotic, the way it curls and fades, curls and fades. It is like the house is exhaling after a long day. You feel yourself exhaling too. You let go of the last bits of stress from your journey. You are no longer thinking about the miles you walked or the ice on the path. You are only thinking about the soft grey cloud above you and the warmth around you. The Longhouse is a very tall building, and most of that height is filled with this quiet, smoky air. It makes the ceiling feel like a dark, private sky. You feel very small sitting under such a big roof, but it is a good kind of small. It is the feeling of being a small part of a very old and very strong story. The smoke has been rising like this for generations. Every person who ever lived in this house has sat where you are sitting and looked up at the same lorry. You close your eyes for a second and imagine you are the smoke. You feel yourself rising up, away from the heavy earth floor. You float past the carved dragon heads on the posts. You drift through the warm, hazy air. You reach the opening and feel the first touch of the cold night air. You see the white snow on the roof and the vast, starry sky above the fjords. Then you are gone, carried away by the north wind. When you open your eyes, you are back on your warm wooden bench. The fire is still crackling softly. The smoke is still making its slow trip to the ceiling. You feel a deep sense of gratitude for this simple hole in the roof. It is the gate between the fire and the stars. You are warm, you are safe, and the air is just right. The night is moving on, and you are drifting closer and closer to a deep and restful sleep. You turn your body to the side to get a better look at the place where you are sitting. These long wooden benches are much more than just a place to rest your legs. They are called the setstokkra, and they run along both of the long walls of the house. They are wide, solid, and built to last as long as the house itself. These benches are the true living space for the family. In a Viking home, you do not have many different rooms for eating, working, and sleeping. Instead, everything happens right here on these raised platforms. The bench is about half a metre high and very deep. It is made of thick planks of pine that have been planed smooth with a hand axe. Over the years, the wood has turned a deep honey colour from the firelight and the touch of many hands. You run your hand over the surface. It feels cool and very smooth, almost like silk. There are no splinters here. This is your microhistory detail for this section, the scuffer. It is a small curved iron blade used for scraping wood until it is perfectly flat. The people who lived here spent many long winter evenings scraping and polishing these benches until they were comfortable enough to sit on for hours. One interesting historical fact is that these benches were often filled with loose earth or sand underneath the wooden boards. This was not just to make them strong. The earth inside the benches acted as even more insulation. It stopped the cold from the ground from rising up into your seat. It also meant that if the house ever got too crowded, the benches could hold the weight of many people without bending or breaking. They are as solid as the hills outside. You look down the length of the bench. It is covered in thick layers of padding to make it soft. First, there is a thick layer of dried mountain grass and sweet-smelling hay. On top of that, there are heavy woolen rugs. You reach down and feel the fabric. It is thick and heavy, woven in simple patterns of grey, white, and black, the natural colours of the sheep. These rugs are not just for show. They are very warm. They trap a layer of air between the wood and your body, keeping you perfectly cosy. Take a moment of silence to feel the solid support of the bench beneath you. The house is very quiet now. You can hear the straw inside the bench cushions crunching softly as you move. It is a very rural, earthy sound. It reminds you of being in a barn, but it is much cleaner and warmer. You lean your back against the wall. Because the benches are raised, you are sitting above the cold air that slides across the floor. You are in the warm zone of the longhouse, where the heat from the long fire stays trapped. You notice that the bench is divided into different sections. Some parts have small wooden partitions, like little fences, to give people a bit of privacy. This is where a family might sit together to share a meal or work on a small craft. You see a basket sitting on the bench a few feet away. It is filled with bits of leather and bone. Someone has been making needles or combs here today. The bench is their workbench, their chair, and their social club all in one. Behind you, on the wall above the bench, there are wooden pegs. Hanging from these pegs are extra cloaks, bags made of sealskin, and bundles of dried onions. Everything is within reach. You feel like you are in a very organized and efficient space. There is no waste here. Every inch of the bench is used for something important. Even the space under the bench is used to store wooden chests filled with clothes or tools. These chests are locked with heavy iron keys that the women of the house carry on their belts. You think about how many stories have been told on this very bench. During the long winter months, when the sun barely rises, the people would sit here for most of the day. They would talk about the great voyages they took in the summer, the fish they caught, and the lands they saw across the sea. The bench is a place of memory. It has heard the laughter of children and the quiet whispers of old men. You feel a sense of belonging as you sit here. You are sitting where history was made, one conversation at a time. The firelight makes the woolen rugs on the bench look very soft. You find yourself leaning over to touch a piece of sheepskin that is draped over the end of the seat. The wool is long and curly. It feels oily and rich. This oil is called lanolin, and it helps the wool stay dry and warm even if it gets a bit damp. You pull the sheepskin closer to you and tuck it around your waist. The warmth is immediate. It feels like the sheep is still giving you its heat. You look across the fire to the benches on the other side of the room. You see the silhouettes of other people resting there. They look like dark statues against the orange glow. Everyone is quiet, enjoying the peace of the evening. The Longhouse is a communal home, but on your bench, you feel like you have your own little island of comfort. You have your rugs, your sheepskin, and the solid wall at your back. The height of the bench gives you a good view of the whole room. You can see the fire pit, the smoke rising to the roof, and the heavy door at the far end. You feel like a king in his hall, even though the house is simple and made of earth. There is a great sense of dignity in this way of living. Everything is honest and strong. There is no plastic, no thin walls, and no fake materials. There is only wood, stone, and wool. You let your head rest against the timber post next to your seat. The wood is cool against your temple. You breathe in the scent of the hay and the wall. It is a very comforting smell, like a big, warm blanket. You feel your heartbeat slowing down to match the slow thump of the house. You are very relaxed. Your legs feel heavy and warm. You are content to stay on this bench for a long, long time. The night is deep now. The wind outside might be screaming, but in here, on the setstock crap, there is only peace. You watch the shadows of the fire play across the grain of the wood. You are part of the night shift, the quiet watches of the winter. You are safe, you are warm, and you are resting on the strongest wood in the north. You look down at your own arms and legs, feeling the weight of the clothes you are wearing. In this frozen world, clothes are not just something to cover your body. They are your personal shield against the bite of the frost. You are wrapped in several layers of thick, heavy wool. The most important part of your outfit is your tunic, made of that strong, hand-woven cloth called vadmal. It is dyed a deep, dark blue using a plant called woad, which the women of the house gathered during the warm summer months. The wool feels very different from the soft cotton or thin fabrics you might know. It is dense and a bit rough to the touch, but it has a wonderful, oily warmth. This is because the wool still has its natural grease called lanolin. One great historical fact is that the Vikings did not wash the natural oils out of their wool. This oil makes the cloth water repellent, which means that even if you walk through a thick fog or a light rain, the water just sits on top of the wool in little beads instead of soaking through to your skin. It keeps you dry and warm, even in the dampest weather. You reach up and touch the metal pin that holds your heavy cloak in place. This is your micro-history detail for this section. The penannular brooch. It is a large iron ring with a long, sharp needle. You slide the needle through the thick layers of the wool and turn the ring to lock it tight. The brooch is simple but very strong. It has to be, because your cloak is made of 2 layers of wool and is heavy enough to feel like a lead blanket on your shoulders. It is a dark grey colour, the natural shade of the sheep that roam the rocky hills outside. Take a moment of silence to feel the comforting weight of the wool against your skin. The tunic you wear is long, reaching down to your thighs. Underneath it, you have trousers made of a lighter, softer wool that has been brushed to make it feel fuzzy and warm. These are tucked into thick woolen socks that reach all the way up to your knees. Your feet are wrapped in soft leather shoes, but inside those shoes you have stuffed a layer of dried grass. This is a very old trick to keep your toes from freezing. The grass creates tiny pockets of air that hold your body heat right where you need it most. As you sit by the fire, you can feel the heat from the logs soaking into the fabric. The wool acts like a sponge for the warmth. It catches the heat from the long fire and holds it close to your heart. You feel a soft glowing sensation all over your body. You are so well insulated that you could almost sleep out in the snow and stay alive. But inside the longhouse, you feel like you are floating in a warm bath. You look at the hem of your sleeves. You see beautiful patterns of braided thread sewn into the edges. These are not just for looks. The extra stitching makes the cuffs stronger, so they do not fray when you are working with wood or iron. The people here take great pride in their clothes. Every thread was spun by hand using a wooden drop spindle, and every inch of cloth was woven on a heavy stone-weighted loom. When you wear these clothes, you are wearing hundreds of hours of careful work. It makes you feel valued and cared for. You adjust your belt, which is made of thick, supple cow leather. Hanging from the belt is a small leather pouch. You open it and find a small piece of striker-light iron and a bit of flint. This is how you make fire when you are away from the longhouse. You also have a small knife with a handle made of reindeer antler. The antler is smooth and cool with tiny brown speckles. It fits perfectly in the palm of your hand. These tools are part of your kit, the things you need to survive the night shift in the wild. The smell of the wool is very clear now that it is warming up. It smells like a clean barn, a bit of wood smoke, and the salty sea air. It is a very honest smell. There are no perfumes or chemicals here. You smell like the land and the animals you live with. You find this very relaxing. It grounds you and makes you feel like you belong in this rugged, beautiful world. You watch the way the firelight plays across the texture of your cloak. The weave is tight and strong. You can see the individual threads crossing over and under each other. It is a pattern that has not changed for 1,000 years. You feel a connection to every person who has ever had to face a cold winter. You are all wearing the same shield of wool, all sitting by the same fire, all waiting for the sun to return. The weight of the clothes makes you move slowly. You cannot rush when you are wearing so much wool. This is a good thing. It forces you to be calm and steady. Each movement is deliberate. You feel like a sturdy oak tree, standing tall and unmoving while the wind blows around you. Your clothes are your fortress, and inside that fortress you are safe and snug. You lean back and let your chin sink into the soft wool of your collar. It tickles your skin just a little bit, but in a way that feels like a tickle from a friend. You are so warm now that you feel a little bit sleepy. The heavy tunic and the thick cloak are like a constant hug. You close your eyes and listen to the soft swish of the wool as you breathe in and out. The night is long, but you are well prepared. You have the fire in front of you, the turf walls around you, and the best wool in the world on your back. You are a guardian of the past, and you are perfectly comfortable in your night shift gear. The cold is just a story that people tell outside. In here, the only truth is the warmth of the wall and the glow of the fire. You feel very, very peaceful. You lean forward a little to look at the space around the long fire where the tools of the home are kept. This is a house that works, and every object you see has been made by hand to do a specific job. Near the edge of the fire pit, there is a collection of wooden bowls and plates. These are not made of thin, breakable china. They are carved from solid blocks of birch and alder wood. They are thick and heavy, and they feel warm to the touch. Each bowl has a slightly different shape, following the natural grain of the wood it came from. You reach out and pick up a large wooden spoon. It is smooth and fits perfectly in your hand. This is your microhistory detail for this section, the spoon. In this time, the spoon is your most important tool for eating. Most meals are thick soups, stews, or porridges, so a good spoon is something you carry with you everywhere. This one has a small hole in the handle with a leather loop, so you can hang it from your belt. It is carved with a simple pattern of interlocking lines that look like the scales of a fish. One interesting historical fact is that the Vikings did not use forks. Forks would not be common for many hundreds of years. Instead, they used their fingers, a sharp knife, and these sturdy wooden spoons. Everything about their tools is simple and strong. There is no glass or thin metal that might snap in the cold. Everything is made from the earth, the trees, or the iron found in the local bogs. You look at the large iron cooking pot hanging over the fire. It is a masterpiece of the blacksmith's art. It is made of several plates of iron that have been hammered together with heavy rivets. The soot from the fire has made the outside of the pot as black as the night sky. Inside, you can hear a thick stew bubbling and glugging as the heat does its work. The iron holds the heat so well that even if the fire died down, the food inside would stay hot for a long time. Next to the pot, you see a set of iron tongs. These are used to move hot stones from the fire into buckets of water to heat them up or to rearrange the burning logs. The tongs are long and thin, with a simple hinge. They look a bit like a pair of long legs. You also see a small wooden whisk made from the top of a young pine tree. The branches have been trimmed short so that they can stir the porridge and break up any lumps. It is a very clever use of a simple branch. Take a moment of silence to appreciate the quiet strength of these handmade things. The room is very still, and the light from the fire makes the iron tools shine with a dull silver glow. You look at a wooden bucket sitting near the bench. It is made of many thin slats of oak, held together by hoops of willow wood. It is perfectly watertight. This bucket holds the fresh water for the family to drink. Next to it is a small dipper made from a hollowed-out cow horn. The horn is translucent, meaning sunlight can pass through it, and it has a beautiful creamy color with streaks of black. You see a large whetstone leaning against one of the main posts. This is a long, flat piece of grey rock used to keep the knives and axes sharp. A sharp tool is a safe tool, and in the winter, the men spend a lot of time sitting by the fire, slowly rubbing their blades against the stone. The shh sound of the metal on the rock is a common sound in the Longhouse. It is a rhythmic, peaceful sound that means the house is being taken care of. On the wall behind you, there is a small shelf. On it sits a comb made of bone. It is very beautiful, with many tiny teeth cut into a piece of antler. Even in these rough times, people like to keep their hair tidy and clean. Next to the comb is a small box made of birch bark. Inside the box are needles made of bone and bronze, used for mending the thick woolen clothes you saw earlier. These small, delicate tools show the gentle side of the Viking hoe. It is not all big axes and heavy shields. There is also a need for fine, careful work. You think about the people who made these things. The blacksmith who spent all day at his forge, the woodcarver who sat in the summer sun, and the women who turned bone into needles. Every tool in this house is a gift from someone's hands. This makes the Longhouse feel very full of life, even when everyone is quiet. You are surrounded by the work of your friends and family. You look back at the iron pot. The steam rising from it carries the scent of onions, dried meat, and wild herbs. It is a smell that promises strength the next day. You feel a deep sense of satisfaction. In our world, we have so many things that we do not know how they are made. But here, you know where everything comes from. You know the tree the bowl came from. You know the iron was pulled from the marsh. It makes the world feel very connected and simple. You feel the heat of the fire on your hands as you put the wooden spoon back down. The wood feels solid and real. You are learning that in the Viking night shift, beauty is found in things that work well. A spoon that fits your hand, a pot that holds the heat, and a knife that stays sharp are the true treasures of the winter. The Longhouse is a library of tools. Each one has a story, and each one helps keep the cold at bay. You lean back and watch the firelight dance on the iron and the wood. You feel very lucky to be in a place where everything is made with such care. You feel safe among these strong, honest objects. The night is moving forward, and you are feeling more at home with every passing minute. You are ready to rest, surrounded by the tools of a life well lived. You sit very still on your bench and turn your head slightly toward the thick turf wall. For a moment, you stop thinking about the fire and the tools. You focus all your attention on your ears. High above you, and all around the sides of the house, there is a sound. It is a low, deep whoosh that sounds like the waves of the ocean hitting a sandy beach. This is the sound of the winter wind moving over the grass of the roof. Outside, the world is in the middle of a great struggle. The wind is coming down from the frozen mountains, moving fast and hard across the flat land. It is trying to find a way inside. It pushes against the heavy oak door and whistles around the corners of the building. But the Longhouse does not move. It does not shake or rattle. Because the walls are made of heavy earth and the roof is covered in thick grass, the house is as solid as a hill. The turf swallows the energy of the wind. This is a very important historical fact about these homes. A house made only of thin wood would creak and groan in a storm like this. The people inside would feel the cold draughts of air coming through the cracks in the boards. But a turf longhouse is different. It is a silent house. The earth is so heavy and dense that the wind simply cannot get through. It acts like a giant pair of earplugs, making the storm sound like it is miles away instead of just a few feet from your head. You reach out and touch the wall again. It feels as steady as a mountain. You notice a small detail about the sound. Sometimes, when the wind blows extra hard, you can hear a faint rustle. This is your microhistory detail for this section, the ek grows, or roof grass. Even though it is winter and the grass is brown and dry, it is still there under the snow. The wind catches the long stalks of grass that stick out from the eaves and makes them dance. It is a soft, scratching sound, like a tiny animal scurrying across the roof. It is a very peaceful sound when you are on the warm side of the wall. Take a moment of silence now to just listen to that distant wind. The contrast between the out there and the in here is what makes the Longhouse feel so wonderful. Outside, the air is freezing and the wind is sharp. If you were out there, your breath would turn to ice on your beard. But in here, the air is still and soft. The only movement is the gentle rising of the smoke. You feel a deep sense of safety. It is the feeling of being in a secret cave that no one can find. The wind is a reminder of how powerful nature is, but the turf is a reminder of how clever people can be. You imagine the Longhouse from a bird's eye view. It would look like a long white mound of snow. The wind would be blowing the snow in great white sheets across the field, but the house would just sit there, unmoving. The turf is like the fur on a polar bear. It is thick and heavy, and it keeps the life inside from freezing. You feel a great deal of thanks for the men who cut those heavy blocks of earth. Their hard work is what allows you to be so relaxed right now. The wind makes a different sound when it passes over the smoke hole. It makes a low, hollow note, like someone blowing across the top of a glass bottle. This sound changes as the wind gets stronger or weaker. It is like the house is singing a very low song to itself. You find the sound very hypnotic. It matches the rhythm of your own breathing. You feel your chest rise and fall in time with the wind's song. You look at the way the firelight flickers. Even with the wind howling outside, the flames of the long fire stay steady. There are no sudden gusts of air to make them jump or blow out. The thick walls are doing their job perfectly. They are holding the world at bay. You feel a sense of pride in this house. It is a simple machine made of mud and grass, but it is better at its job than many modern brass. but it is better at its job than many modern buildings. It is a house that knows how to survive. The smell of the room seems to get deeper when you listen to the wind. The smell of the earth, the wood, and the old smoke all come together. It is the smell of a place that has been warm for a long time. You realize that the Longhouse is not just a building, it is a living shield. It protects the people, the animals, and the fire. Without this shell of turf, life in the north would be impossible. You lean back and close your eyes. You let the sound of the wind become a background noise, like the sound of a distant river. You are no longer worried about the storm. The wind can scream all it wants. It cannot get past the grass. It cannot get past the earth. You are tucked away in the night shift, and your only job is to stay warm and listen to the house. You feel a heavy, comfortable weight in your limbs. The world is very big and very cold, but your corner of it is small and perfectly warm. The night moves on, and the wind continues its long whoosh over the roof. You feel your mind drifting. You think about the grass waiting under the snow for the spring sun. Just like the grass, you are waiting, safe and sound, in the heart of the turf. You are warm. You are quiet. The Longhouse is holding you close, and the winter wind is just a soft lullaby. The woman near the fire reaches for a large wooden ladle. She moves with a slow, calm grace, her long woolen skirts brushing against the hard earth floor. She leans over the iron pot that has been bubbling all evening. You watch as she stirs the contents. The sound is thick and heavy as slow plip-plop as the wooden spoon moves through the dense grain. This is the main meal of the day, a simple but filling porridge that the Vikings called grout. In the long dark winters, a hot bowl of grain is more than just food. It is the fuel that keeps your internal fire burning. She fills a wide birch bowl and hands it to you. The wood of the bowl is warm, and you can feel the heat soaking into your palms. This is your micro-history detail for this section, the grain itself. This porridge is made from barley, a hardy grain that can grow in the short, cool summers of the north. The grains have been cracked between two heavy stones to make them soft. To make it special, she has added a handful of dried lingonberries. They look like tiny red jewels hidden in the pale cream of the barley. One interesting historical fact is that the Vikings did not have sugar as we know it today. To make their food sweet, they had to find wild beehives in the forest for honey, or they used the natural sweetness of dried fruits. As you take your first spoonful, you taste a hint of honey that has been stirred in at the very end. The porridge is thick, warm, and very heartening. It feels like a heavy weight in your stomach, a good weight that tells your body it is time to rest and be still. Take a moment of silence to enjoy the simple, honest taste of the warm grain. The steam from the bowl rises up and tickles your nose. It smells like the earth, like toasted bread, and like the sweet forest berries. You eat slowly, using your hand-carved wooden spoon. Each bite warms you from the inside out. You can feel the energy of the food spreading through your chest and down into your tired legs. In the night shift of the Viking Age, there are no fancy snacks or fast food. There is only the food that the land gives you, prepared with patience over the long fire. You look around and see others eating too. There is very little talking now. The act of eating a warm meal is a quiet, serious thing. It is a moment of gratitude. You think about the field where this barley grew and the hands that harvested it with iron sickles under the summer sun. Now, in the middle of a blizzard, that summer sun is giving its energy back to you. It is a beautiful cycle. You feel very connected to the seasons as you scrape the bottom of your wooden bowl. The room feels even cozier now that you are full. The porridge has chased away the last tiny bit of chill that was hiding in your bones. You feel a sense of deep satisfaction. The Longhouse provides the shelter, the fire provides the heat, and the barley provides the strength. You have everything a human being needs to be happy. You don't need bright lights or loud music. You just need a warm bowl and a safe place to sit. You set the empty bowl down on the bench beside you. The wood of the bowl clacks softly against the pine planks. You lean back and let out a long, slow breath. Your body feels heavy and relaxed, as if you are sinking into the bench. The woman takes your bowl and gives you a small nod. She moves back to the fire to clean the ladle. Her movements are part of the night shift rhythm, steady, quiet and purposeful. The smell of the porridge lingers in the air, mixing with the birch smoke. It is a homely, comfortable scent. It reminds you of being a child, tucked away in a safe corner while the adults talked. You feel that same sense of being looked after. The Longhouse is like a big parent, holding everyone inside its thick turf walls and feeding them from its central fire. You feel very small, but very cared for. You watch the last few embers of a piece of wood fall into the ash. The fire is still bright, but it is settling down into a steady, glowing heat. You feel your eyelids getting heavier. The warm meal has made you very sleepy. It is the kind of sleepiness that feels like a heavy woolen blanket being pulled over your head. You are not ready to close your eyes just yet, but the thought of sleep is becoming very attractive. You think about how different this is from a meal in the modern world. There is no TV to watch, no phone to check. There is only the fire, the taste of the grain, and the sound of the wind. It makes the meal feel more important. You really tasted every spoonful. You really felt the warmth of the bowl. It is a slower way of living, and right now, it feels like the best way. The night is moving on. The long fire continues to pulse with light, casting shadows that look like slow-moving giants on the walls. You are warm, you are full, and you are safe. The night shift is a quiet watch, and you are doing your job well by simply being at peace. You close your eyes for a moment, still tasting the sweetness of the honey and the tartness of the berries. Life is good in the heart of the winter. You shift your weight on the bench and look at the massive wooden posts that stand like soldiers along the length of the hall. These posts are the bones of the house. They go deep into the earth and reach high up to hold the heavy weight of the turf roof. But they are not just plain logs. As the firelight flickers, you see that the wood is covered in deep, swirling patterns. These are the carvings of the north, and they tell the stories of the people who live here. You lean in closer to the post nearest to you. The wood is oak, and it has been carved with great skill. You see the shape of a long, thin dragon winding its way up the timber. Its body twists and turns in a pattern of knots that have no beginning and no end. This is your microhistory detail for tonight, the Ernie style. This is a type of art where animals like dragons and snakes are stretched out into long, graceful lines that overlap each other. It looks like the wood is alive, pulsing with the energy of the forest. One interesting historical fact is that these carvings were not just for decoration. The Vikings believed that these patterns helped to protect the house. The dragons were there to scare away bad spirits and to show the strength of the family. By carving these shapes into the very bones of the building, they were making the house a holy and safe place. Every twist of the knife was a way of saying that this home would stand strong against the dark. Take a moment of silence to trace the lines of the carving with your eyes. The wood feels very old. You reach out and run your thumb over the dragon's head. The wood is smooth and has a slight shine from the oil of the smoke. It feels warm, almost like it is holding on to the heartbeat of the fire. You can feel the small grooves where the carver's tool pressed into the oak. It is a very slow and patient kind of art. It reminds you that in the winter, there is plenty of time to do things right. There is no need to rush when the world is frozen outside. You look further up the post. The carvings change as they go higher. Near the top, there are patterns of leaves and vines. It is as if the tree is trying to grow again inside the house. The shadows make the patterns move. For a second, it looks like the dragon is breathing. It is a very peaceful and magical feeling. You feel like you are sitting inside a giant piece of jewelry or a large carved chest. The Longhouse is full of these small details. Even the beams across the ceiling have simple lines cut into them. It shows that the people here love beauty. Even though life is hard and the winters are cold, they take the time to make their surroundings pretty. They use their knives to turn a simple piece of firewood into a work of art. You find this very inspiring. It makes the night shift feel like a time for creativity and thought. You look across the room at the other posts. Each one is a little bit different. One might have a pattern of scales, while another has the face of a stern man with a long beard. These posts are like the family tree of the house. They hold up the roof, but they also hold up the spirit of the people. You feel a sense of respect for the wood. It has been standing here for a long time, watching over many winters just like this one. The smell of the old oak is faint but sweet. It mixes with the smell of the birch smoke to create a very rich and woody air. You take a slow breath. Your lungs feel full and warm. You feel a sense of stability. The posts are so thick and strong that you know the house will never fall. Even if the snow piles up as high as the roof, the oak will hold firm. You think about the man who carved this dragon. He probably sat right where you are sitting. He would have had a small oil lamp or the light of the fire to see by. He would have worked for weeks, slowly revealing the shape of the animal hidden in the wood. His work has lasted much longer than his own life. It is a gift he left for everyone who comes to sit by this fire. You feel lucky to be the one looking at it tonight. The firelight dims for a moment as a log settles, and the dragon on the post seems to sink back into the shadows. Then a new flame jumps up, and the carving shines again. It is a constant game of hide and seek. You find it very relaxing to watch. It keeps your mind busy without making it work too hard. It is like watching clouds move across the sky, but these are clouds made of wood and history. You lean your head against the post. The wood is solid and unyielding. It is a good place to rest. You feel the strength of the oak moving into your own back. You are no longer just a visitor. You are part of the house now. You are tucked in between the carved dragons and the thick turf walls. You are safe. You are warm. The night is very quiet now. The only sound is the low hiss of the fire and the distant whoosh of the wind. The dragons on the posts are standing guard, watching over you while you rest. You feel a deep sense of peace. The art of the Vikings is all around you, telling you that you are in a place of honor and safety. You close your eyes and let the image of the swirling knots drift through your mind. You stand up slowly from your bench, feeling the warmth of the porridge still in your belly. You decide to walk toward the far end of the longhouse, away from the heavy oak door. As you move, the air begins to change. Near the long fire, the air is dry and smells of birch smoke and cooking meat. But as you walk further down the hall, the air becomes heavier and damp. It starts to smell like sweet hay and old grass. This is the part of the house where the animals live. In a Viking Longhouse, the family and the farm animals all live under the same roof. The house is divided into two parts. One end is for the people, and the other end is the byre, which is a simple word for a cowshed. You walk past the last of the sleeping benches and see a wooden partition made of thin willow branches woven together. On the other side of this wall, you can hear the soft sounds of life. There is a gentle thump of a hoof, and the rhythmic sound of a creature chewing its cud. You step into the animal end of the house. It is darker here because the fire is further away, but your eyes soon adjust. You see several cows standing in small stalls made of wood. They are smaller than the cows we see today, with thick shaggy hair to keep them warm. Next to them are a few sheep, huddled together in a pile of fluffy white wool. This is your micro-history detail for tonight, the winter fodder. You see piles of dried grass and leaf hay stacked against the walls. The farmers spent all summer gathering this food so the animals could stay inside and eat while the snow is deep outside. One very important historical fact is that having animals inside was a clever way to stay warm. A large cow is like a big living heater. Their bodies produce a lot of heat, and because the house is one big open space, that heat rises and mixes with the heat from the fire. By keeping the animals at one end of the longhouse, the Vikings added a whole extra layer of warmth to their home. It also meant the animals were safe from wolves and the freezing wind. It was a partnership between humans and beasts to survive the night shift of the winter. Take a moment of silence to listen to the calm, steady breathing of the animals. The sound is very relaxing. It is a slow, deep in and out that fills the dark end of the room. You walk over to one of the cows and reach out your hand. Her fur is thick and a little bit coarse, though the skin underneath is very hot. She turns her head and looks at you with a large, dark eye. She is not afraid. She is not afraid. She knows she is safe in the turf house. You feel a sense of peace being near these gentle creatures. They do not worry about the storm or the future. They only care about the hay and the warmth. The floor here is covered in a thick layer of dry straw. It feels soft under your boots, making your footsteps almost silent. The straw helps to soak up any mess and keeps the animals' feet dry. Every few days, the farmers will add more straw on top, creating a deep, warm bed. This also creates a natural kind of heat, as the straw and old grass sit together. The Vikings were very practical people. They used every bit of energy they could find to fight the cold. You look back toward the other end of the house. From here, the long fire looks like a distant, glowing sunset. You can see the silhouettes of the people sitting on the benches, framed by the smoke. It feels like you are looking at a different world. Out here with the animals, life feels very simple and ancient. It is the same way people and animals have lived together for thousands of years. It is a very humble and honest way to exist. The smell of the animals is strong, but it is a good smell. It smells like life. It is the smell of milk, wool, and the earth. You find that it does not bother you at all. In fact, it makes the longhouse feel more complete. Without the animals, the house would feel too empty and quiet. Their presence makes the whole feel like a true home, full of living things all trying to stay warm together. You see a small lamb standing near its mother. It has tiny soft ears and a pink nose. It lets out a very quiet bar and then tucks its head back into the mother's wool. You smile to yourself. Even in the middle of a freezing winter, there is new life and hope. The Longhouse is a nursery for the farm, keeping the next generation safe until the green grass returns in the spring. You lean against one of the wooden stalls. The wood is rough and has the scent of pine. You feel the damp warmth of the animal's breath on your hand. It is like a soft, moist cloud. You feel very grounded and calm. The night shift isn't just about people staying awake. It's about the whole farm resting together. The cows, the sheep, and the humans are all one big family tonight, protected by the thick turf and the heavy roof. You stay there for a few minutes, just enjoying the stillness. The animals move very little. They are saving their energy. You should do the same. You feel the weight of the day starting to pull at your muscles. The walk, the fire, the meal, and now the gentle warmth of the byre have all made you very, very ready for sleep. You take one last look at the shaggy cows and the sleeping sheep. You turn around and start walking back toward the light of the fire. As you leave the animal end, the air gets drier and the smell of wood smoke returns. But you carry the peace of the animals with you. You have seen how the whole house works together to stay alive. From the dragons on the posts to the cows in the hay, everything has its place. You are ready to go back to your bench and prepare for the final part of the night. The long fire is still dancing, waiting for you. You feel a sense of completion. You have seen the whole world of the Longhouse now. You know how it breathes, how it eats, and how it stays warm. You feel like you belong here. You are a watcher of the night, and the house has shown you all its secrets. You walk back to your spot, your heart feeling light and your body feeling heavy. You return to your seat near the fire, but you find yourself thinking about the animals you just left in the dark end of the hall. It is a strange thing to think about in our modern times, but in the Viking Age, the heat from those cows and sheep was a vital part of staying alive. You can still feel the lingering damp warmth of the byre on your skin. This extra heat is like an invisible blanket that flows from the animal end toward the living area. It mixes with the dry, sharp heat of the long fire, creating a balance in the air that makes the Longhouse feel perfectly comfortable. In the winter, the temperature outside can drop so low that a person could freeze in just a few hours. But inside, because of the living heaters at the far end, the air stays well above freezing. This is an important historical fact. The Vikings designed their homes to be an ecosystem. An ecosystem is a place where everything works together. The humans give the animals a dry place to stay and hay to eat, and in return, the animals give the humans their body heat. It is a silent deal made between the farmer and his herd to keep the night shift from becoming too cold to bear. You look at a small wooden bucket near the fire. It is filled with milk that was taken from the cows earlier this evening. This is your microhistory detail for this section, Brucker. This is a type of thick, soured milk or a very soft cheese that is kept in wooden tubs. Because it is a bit sour, it stays good for a long time without a fridge. You see a small bowl of it sitting on the edge of the bench. It has a sharp, fresh smell that cuts through the heavy scent of the smoke. It is another gift from the animals that live just a few meters away from where you sleep. Take a moment of silence to think about the quiet partnership between the people and their animals. The room is very calm. You hear a soft, lowing sound from one of the cows in the back. It is a deep, musical vibration that you can feel in the floorboards under your feet. It is a very grounding sound. It reminds you that you are not alone in this house. There are dozens of hearts beating under this turf roof. There are hundreds of lungs breathing in the smoky air. This makes the Longhouse feel like a living, breathing creature itself. You are tucked inside the belly of the house, safe and warm, while the wind tries to bite through the walls. The warmth from the animals also helps with the humidity of the house. In a world where everything is made of wood and wool, you don't want the air to get too dry, or the wood might crack and the wool might become brittle. The breath of the cows adds just enough moisture to the air to keep everything supple and strong. You notice that your own skin feels soft, not tight and dry from the fire. The Vikings didn't have science books to explain this, but they knew from hundreds of years of experience that a house with animals felt right. You watch a cat walk across the floor. It is a large, forest-dwelling cat with thick fur and tufted ears. It moves silently, its eyes glowing like green jewels in the firelight. It stops near the partition to the animal end, then disappears into the shadows. The cat is also part of this system. It keeps the mice away from the precious grain and the animal fodder. Everyone has a job to do. Even the smallest creature plays a part in keeping the longhouse running through the dark months. You lean back and look at the ceiling. The heat from the cows rises up and hits the sloping roof, then rolls back down toward the center of the room. This creates a gentle circle of moving air. It keeps the smoke from the fire from settling too low. You feel a gentle drift of air against your cheek. It is not a cold draft. It is a warm, soft breeze. It feels like the house is whispering to you, telling you that all is well. You think about how quiet the animals are. They are very patient. They know that the winter is a time for waiting. They don't complain about the lack of green grass or the darkness. They just stand in their hay, chewing and breathing and giving off their heat. You feel like you could learn a lot from them. You let your own body become patient. You stop thinking about what you have to do tomorrow. You just focus on the now. The now is warm. The now is safe. The smell of the hay from the byre starts to make you feel very sleepy again. It is the smell of summer fields that have been dried and stored away. It is a very sweet and dusty scent. It reminds you of sunshine and long days in the meadows. Even though you're in the middle of a winter night, the smell of the hay brings a little bit of July into your heart. It is a wonderful way to drift towards sleep with the smell of summer in your nose and the warmth of the herd at your back. You look at your hands. They are steady and relaxed. The night shift is a time of deep rest for the animals, and that rest is contagious. You feel your own heart rate slowing down to match the slow, steady rhythm of the cows. The house is a symphony of soft sounds, the crackle of the fire, the rustle of the straw, and the deep breathing of the animals. It is the best lullaby in the world. The firelight is turning a deeper shade of orange as the birch logs burn down to their red cores. The shadows in the animal end are long and still. You feel a great sense of peace. You are part of the very old way of living, a way that respects the animals and the land. You feel a deep gratitude for the shaggy cows and the fluffy sheep. Their presence makes the winter bearable. Their heat makes the longhouse a home. You take a long, slow breath. The air is warm and rich with the scent of the byre and the hearth. You feel like you are sinking deeper into the woolen rugs of your bench. The world is very quiet. The wind is just a distant memory. You are safe in the night shift, surrounded by friends both human and animal. You are ready for whatever the night brings, as long as you can stay right here in the warmth. You lean forward and reach for the heavy iron tools resting against the stone edge of the fire pit. Your hands are warm, but the iron handle of the poker is cool to the touch at first. This is a quiet moment in the longhouse. Most of the people have moved to their benches, and the big meal is over. Now, it is time for the night shift to perform one of its most important tasks, tending the fire. You take the iron rod, which is about the length of your arm, and feel its weight. It is solid and strong, hammered out by a blacksmith who knew how to turn a lump of metal into a vital tool for survival. This is your microhistory detail for this section, the fire iron. In the Viking Age, these tools were not just for show. They were thin enough to slide between the logs, but strong enough to lift a heavy piece of burning oak. The end of the rod is curled into a small hook. This hook allows you to grab the glowing embers and pull them toward the center, or to push a half-burnt log into a better spot. As you move the iron, it makes a soft clink against the river stones that line the pit. One interesting historical fact is where this iron came from. The Vikings did not usually mine iron from deep holes in the mountains. Instead, they gathered it from the wet ground in marshes and bogs. This is called bog iron. Bacteria in the swampy water create little lumps of iron ore over many years. The Vikings would dig up these rusty-looking clumps, melt them down in a clay furnace, and beat them with hammers until the metal was pure and strong. Every time you use this poker, you are holding a piece of the earth that has been transformed by fire and hard work. Take a moment of silence to watch the glow of the logs as you move them. The fire responds to your touch. As you lift a heavy birch log and shift it to the side, a new path for the air is opened. Suddenly, a small pocket of trapped gas catches the heat, and a bright blue flame leaps up, dancing along the edge of the wood. You use the hook to scrape the white ash away from the bottom of the fire. Underneath the ash, the coals are a brilliant, pulsing orange. They look like a city of tiny suns, burning with a heat that is much more intense than the yellow flames above. The sound of the fire tools is very rhythmic. Scrape, clink, sss. The sound of the ash being moved is like the sound of dry leaves in the autumn. You work slowly. There is no need to hurry. Tending the fire is a form of meditation. You are the guardian of the warmth. If you do your job well, The fire will burn steadily all through the night, keeping the frost at the door and the chill away from the sleeping children. You feel a great sense of responsibility, but it is a calm, peaceful kind of work. You look at the soot on the iron rod. It is a deep, matte black. Some of it rubs off on your fingers, but you do not mind. In the Longhouse, a bit of soot and earth is just a part of life. It shows that you are a person who works with their hands, someone who understands how the world is put together. You wipe your hand on a piece of old leather and return to your task. You are making sure the heart of the house is beating at just the right speed. You notice that one of the stones in the fire pit has moved slightly. You use the poker to nudge it back into place. These stones are the memory of the fire. They soak up the heat all day and all night. Even if the flames were to go out, these heavy grey rocks would stay warm for hours. They are like a battery that stores the energy of the wood. You can feel the heat radiating from them, a steady push of warmth that hits your face and chest. It makes your skin feel tight and glowing. The smell of the fire changes as you move the logs. You get a fresh scent of burning sap and the earthy smell of the disturbed ash. It is a dry, clean smell. It is the smell of safety. You think about how important this iron is. Without the ability to work metal, the Vikings could not have built such strong houses or lived in such cold places. The iron tools allow them to control the fire, to cook their food, and to keep the winter at bay. You lean back for a second, resting the poker across your knees. You look at the way the light reflects off the dark metal. The iron has a memory of its own. It has been in the fire 1,000 times, yet it never melts. It only gets stronger. You feel a connection to the blacksmith who made it. He sat in his smoky forge, swinging his hammer, making sure this rod was straight and true. Now, hundreds of years later, it is doing exactly what he intended it to do. The room is very quiet now. The only other sound is the soft breathing of the people on the benches. You are the only one moving. It is a special feeling to be the watcher while the rest of the world sleeps. You feel like you are standing on the edge of a great mystery. The fire is the center of the universe, and you are its caretaker. You watch a single spark fly up from the pit. It rises in a slow, graceful curve, glowing bright gold against the dark smoke of the ceiling. It disappears into the shadows, and for a moment the room feels a little bit darker. You use the fire iron one last time to tuck a fresh log into the bed of coals. The wood is dry and catches almost immediately. The crackle is loud in the silence of the hall. You feel satisfied. The fire is built well. It is solid and steady. It will last. You stand the iron rod back up against the stone, making sure it is secure. The metal is hot now, and you can see a faint shimmer in the air around it. You sit back on your bench and let your muscles relax. Your arms feel a little bit heavy from the weight of the iron. Your face is warm from the glow of the coals. You feel a deep sense of peace. You have done your part for the night shift. The fire is happy and the house is safe. You watch the flames for a few more minutes, mesmerized by the way they twist and turn around the new log. The longhouse feels very secure. The thick walls, the heavy door, and now the perfectly tended fire all work together to create a fortress of comfort. You are no longer a traveler in the cold. You are a part of the house's rhythm. You breathe in the smoky air and feel your heart beating in time with the pulsing coals. You are ready for the next part of the evening. The fire will take it from here, and you can begin to let your mind drift toward the softness of the firs and the quiet of the night. The night is moving forward, and you are moving with it. You are warm, you are calm, and the iron tools are resting, waiting for the morning. You close your eyes and listen to the fire whispering to the stones. It is a good sound. It is the sound of a job well done. You are safe in the heart of the Viking winter. You lean back on your bench and turn your eyes toward a group of women sitting near the far edge of the fire's light. While the men might be carving wood or sharpening iron, the women are rarely seen with empty hands. Even now, as the night grows deep and the house settles into a quiet rhythm, they are working. They are making the very thing that keeps this whole world from freezing: thread. They are spinning the wool that will later be woven into the thick cloaks, the warm tunics, and the heavy blankets you have been using all night. You watch one woman in particular. She's sitting on a low stool, her back straight and her eyes focused on the thin strand of fibre in her fingers. In her left hand, she holds a long wooden stick called a distaff, which has a large clump of raw unspun wool tied to the top. This wool looks like a soft white cloud. With her right hand, she gently pulls a few hairs from the cloud and twists them together. Then she gives a small wooden tool, a sharp flick with a thumb and finger. This tool is your micro-history detail for this section, the drop spindle. It is a simple wooden rod with a heavy, round weight at the bottom. The weight is called a whirl. It can be made of carved stone, baked clay, or even a heavy piece of lead. As the spindle drops toward the floor, the whirl keeps it spinning like a top. The spinning motion twists the loose wool into a strong, tight thread. You watch it spin round and round, a blur of brown wood and white wool hanging just a few inches above the hard earth floor. One interesting historical fact is that spinning was a constant part of a woman's life in the Viking Age. From the time they were young girls until they were very old, women spent thousands of hours every year spinning. In fact, the work was so common that the side of a family tree related to women was often called the spindle side. Without this constant night shift of spinning, there would be no sails for the ships, no clothes for the winter, and no rugs for the benches. The thread is the hidden cord that holds the whole Viking world together. Take a moment of silence to watch the rhythmic flick and spin of the wooden tool. The sound is very faint, but in the quiet of the Longhouse you can hear it. It is a soft whir as the spindle turns, followed by a light taff as it gently touches the floor when the thread gets too long. Then the woman picks it up, winds the new thread around the rod and starts again. It is a very peaceful, repetitive motion. It is like the ticking of a clock, marking the passing of the hours in the dark. You find it very easy to watch. Your eyes follow the spindle down and up, down and up. The wool she is using has a very specific smell. It is the smell of the sheep, mixed with a bit of the salty sea spray from the hills where they graze. It is an oily, rich scent. As the wool is pulled and twisted, the natural oils, the lanolin, gets onto the woman's hands. This makes her skin very soft and smooth, even though she works hard in the cold. You look at her hands in the firelight. They move with a memory of their own. She does not even need to look at what she is doing. She could spin in total darkness just by the feel of the wool between her fingers. You see a basket on the floor next to her. It is full of different colours of wool. Some is white, some is a dark chocolate brown, and some is a soft, misty grey. These are the natural colours of the sheep. Sometimes the women will dye the thread using plants they have gathered. You see a bundle of thread that is a bright, cheerful yellow. This colour comes from a plant called weld. Another bundle is a deep, earthy red from a root called madder. These colours are like small bits of the summer garden kept inside the house through the winter. The long fire makes the spinning thread look like a silver wire. It catches the light and shimmers as it twists. You think about how much thread it takes to make just one cloak. It must be miles and miles of spinning. Every inch of it has to be done by hand, one flick of the spindle at a time. It makes you value your own clothes even more. You are not just wearing wool. You are wearing the time and the patience of the people you live with. The woman catches the spindle and winds the thread. She looks up for a moment and catches your eye. She gives a small, tired smile and then goes right back to her work. There is a sense of quiet pride in her movements. She knows that she is the one who keeps the house warm. She is the one who makes sure the sailors have strong sails to carry them home. Her work is quiet, but it is the foundation of everything. You feel the warmth of the fire on your side, and the rhythmic whir of the spinning starts to make you feel very heavy again. It is a very domestic and safe sound. It tells you that the life of the house is continuing, even as the night grows late. The night shift is not always about big adventures or guarding the walls. Often, it is about the steady, quiet work that keeps a family going. You look at the shadows of the spinning walls on the turf walls. They look like large, dark coins turning in the air. You think about the cycle of the wool. It starts on the sheep on the hill, then it comes into the longhouse to be cleaned and spun. Then it is woven into cloth, and finally, it is worn by a person until it is old and goes back into the earth. Everything is a circle. The spinning spindle is a perfect symbol of that circle. You take a deep breath of the warm, smoky air. The smell of the wool and the sight of the spinning are like a soft lullaby for your mind. You are no longer thinking about the cold wind or the frozen fields. You are only thinking about the thread. You imagine it stretching out from the longhouse, connecting you to all the other houses in the valley. Everyone is spinning. Everyone is working together to keep the winter at bay. The firelight is soft and golden on the woman's face. She looks very peaceful. You realize that this work is her way of resting too. In the winter, you cannot go out and farm, so you sit and spin. It is a way to keep the hands busy while the mind rests. You let your own mind rest. You don't try to think about deep things. You just watch the spindle. Down and up. Down and up. The night is very deep now. The long fire has settled into a steady glow. The women will soon put away their spindles and move to their beds. But for now, the whir continues. It is the heartbeat of the home. You feel very grateful to be in a place where people take the time to make things by hand. It makes the world feel very solid and real. You close your eyes for a second, but you can still hear the spindle. You can still smell the wool. You are safe. You are warm. You are part of the spindle side of the house tonight, protected by the thread and the fire. The night shift is a quiet one, and you are drifting closer and closer to a long, deep sleep. You shift your weight on the soft rugs of the bench and lean in closer to the fire. Now that the meal is finished and the work is slowing down, the mood in the longhouse changes. This is the time for the night shift to share their memories. In a world without books or screens, stories are the way people keep their history alive. An old man, his beard the color of the winter snow, clears his throat. Everyone falls silent. Even the women with their spindles slow their hands to listen. The only sound is the soft crackle of the wood and the distant moan of the wind against the turf. The old man begins to speak in a low, rumbling voice. It tells a story of a great sea trip he took when he was a young man. It describes the way the longship felt as it climbed over massive grey waves in the North Sea. He talks about the smell of the salt spray and the sound of the wind screaming through the linen sail. This is your microhistory detail for this section, the scold. A scold is a poet and a storyteller. They do not just tell what happened. They use special, clever words to make the story beautiful. They might call the sea the whale's road, or the sun the sky's candle. One interesting historical fact is that these stories were how the Vikings learned about their world. They did not have maps, so they used stories to remember the way to different lands. A story would tell them to turn where the sun sets behind the jagged rock, or follow the birds that fly toward the green island. These tales were like a map made of words, kept safe in the minds of the listeners. As you listen, you can almost feel the cold water on your face and see the white foam of the sea. Take a moment of silence to let the words of the story sink in. The old man's voice is very calming. It rises and falls like the waves he is describing. You watch his face in the firelight. Every wrinkle on his forehead seems to tell a story of its own. He uses his hands to show the size of the great fish they caught or the height of the cliffs they saw. You find yourself leaning forward, hanging on every word. The longhouse feels like it is growing smaller, focusing all its energy on this one man and his memories. The stories are not just about the sea. He tells of the gods who live in a great hall in the sky. He speaks of Thor and his heavy iron hammer, and how the sound of thunder is just the wheels of Thor's chariot moving across the clouds. You look up at the smoke hole. For a moment, you imagine you can see the gods looking down at the fire. It makes the world feel very big and full of wonder. Even though you are tucked away in a small house made of earth, you feel connected to the stars and the giants. The smell of the room seems to change as the story goes on. When he talks about the forest, you smell the pine. When he talks about the sea, you smell the salt. It is as if the words have a scent of their own. You feel very relaxed. Your mind is traveling far away from the snow and the ice, flying across the ocean on the wings of the story. This is why the Vikings loved their tales. They were a way to escape the long dark winter without ever leaving the warmth of the fire. You notice a young boy sitting on the floor near the old man's feet. His eyes are wide and he is not moving at all. He is learning. One day he will be the one sitting on the bench telling these same stories to his own grandchildren. This is how the night shift works across the years. The old give their memories to the young, making sure that the names of their fathers and the deeds of their friends are never forgotten. It is a very beautiful and steady way to live. The firelight makes the shadows on the walls look like the characters in the story. You see the dragons and the heroes dancing in the dark corners. You feel a sense of peace that is very deep. These stories tell you that even if things are hard, and even if the winter is long, people have always found a way to survive and be happy. They tell you that you are part of a long line of brave and clever people. The old man finishes his tale and takes a slow sip from a wooden cup. The room stays quiet for a long time. No one wants to break the magic of the words. You breathe in the smoky air and feel a sense of gratitude. You have been given a gift, tonight a gift of history and imagination. You feel like your mind is full of bright colors and exciting shapes. The long fire is settling now, the logs turning into a deep, glowing red. The stories have done their job. They have brought the family together and made the night feel shorter. You feel your body getting very heavy and ready for bed. The night shift is moving toward its end, and the quiet time of sleep is coming. You look at the old man one last time. He is leaning back, his eyes closed, a small smile on his face. He is resting in his own memories. You turn your gaze back to the flames. The stories are still echoing in your head, like the sound of a bell after it has been struck. You feel safe, you feel wise, and you feel very, very warm. The Longhouse is a place of many voices, but tonight they are all whispering the same thing. You are home, you are safe, and the night is peaceful. You feel a soft change in the air of the Longhouse. The stories have come to an end, and the spinning wheels have stopped their whirring. It is time for the final part of the night shift, preparing the body for rest. You move slowly, as there is no need to hurry in a house that is already so still. You reach down and begin to unlace your heavy leather boots. This is your micro-history detail for tonight, the turn shoe. These shoes are made of a single piece of supple cow leather, sewn together inside out, and then turned the right way so the seams are hidden. This protects the thread from wearing out on the rough ground. As you pull the leather away, you feel the cool air hit your feet for just a second before the warmth of the fire finds them again. You reach into the shoes and pull out the clumps of dried grass you used for warmth. The grass is flattened and warm from your skin. You set it aside in a small wooden box near the bench so it can dry out properly by the fire overnight. You then unroll your long woolen leg wraps, which were wound tightly from your ankles to your knees. Your legs feel light and free, a wonderful feeling after a long day of walking through the deep snow. One interesting historical fact is how the Vikings kept clean before bed. Even in the middle of winter, they valued being tidy. You see a small wooden tub near the fire filled with warm water. You take a piece of linen cloth and dip it into the water, wiping the dust of the day from your face and hands. The water feels like silk against your skin. You use a small comb made of antler to smooth your hair. In the Viking world, taking care of your appearance was a sign of respect for yourself and your house. It makes you feel refreshed and calm, ready to leave the world of work behind. Take a moment of silence to feel the relaxation spreading through your feet and legs. The floor feels cool and solid under your bare feet as you stand up for a moment. You walk a few steps to stretch your muscles. The long fire is now a deep, steady glow of red coals. It does not flicker as much as it did before, but it gives off a very powerful, even heat. You look at your clothes one last time. You decide to keep your woolen tunic on, as it will act like a soft base layer for your sleep. You fold your heavy cloak neatly and place it at the end of the bench. Everything is in its right place. The smell of the room is now very heavy, with the scent of the cooling fire and the sweet dry hay of the benches. You feel a sense of routine. Every night, for hundreds of years, people have done exactly what you were doing. They have taken off their boots, dried their grass, and combed their hair by the light of the embers. This routine is like a bridge that carries you from the busy day into the quiet night. You feel very connected to the rhythm of the house. You see others doing the same. A mother is helping a small child out of their woolen smock. An old man is carefully placing his knife in its leather sheath and tucking it under his pillow. There is a great deal of trust in the Longhouse. You are all sleeping together in one big room, protected by the same walls and the same fire. It makes you feel like you are part of a pack, a family that watches over one another while the world is dark. You look toward the animal end of the house. The cows are silent now, their shaggy heads resting on the straw. The sheep are just white lumps in the shadows. Even the animals know it is time to be still. The night shift is entering its quietest phase. The only person who will stay awake is the one who sits nearest the door, keeping a lazy eye on the fire to make sure it stays alive. Tonight that is not your job. Your job is only to rest. You reach for a small wooden cup and take one last sip of cool water. It tastes of the mountain stream in the wooden bucket. It is crisp and clean. You feel your body saying thank you for the simple comforts. You are not hungry, you are not cold, and you are not worried. You are just a human being in a warm hall, surrounded by the smell of wood and the glow of the earth. You look up at the smoke hole. The star you saw earlier has moved across the sky, and now the opening shows only a deep, velvety black. The smoke has thinned out, leaving the air clear and sweet. You take a very deep breath, filling your lungs with the peaceful air of the home. You feel like the house is exhaling with you. The walls are thick, the door is barred, and the winter is far away on the other side of the turf. You turn back to your sleeping area. You feel a wave of sleepiness hit you, so strong that it almost makes you stumble. It is a good kind of tired, the kind that comes from a day well spent, and a body that is perfectly warm. You are ready to see where you will spend the night. You have seen the hall, but you have not yet seen the secret sleeping places of the Vikings. You pick up your sheepskin rug and hold it against your chest. It is soft and warm. You feel like a child carrying a favorite blanket. You are ready to let go of the day completely. The fire will guard the house, and the turf will guard the fire. You are safe. You are calm. The night is yours to enjoy in the deepest, most restful way possible. You move toward the shadows at the edge of the hall, ready for the next step of your journey into sleep. You move away from the glowing long fire and walk toward the dark edges of the hall. Here, tucked behind the heavy wooden posts and the raised benches, are the sleeping places. In a Viking home, you do not just lie out in the open. You have a special place that feels like a small house inside the big house. This is your micro-history detail for tonight, the lokrekkja. It is a built-in bed closet. It looks like a large wooden box or a small cupboard set into the wall. It has its own floor, its own roof, and most importantly, its own thick wooden doors. You reach out and touch the wood of the bed closet. It is made of smooth pine boards that have been joined together with wooden pegs. It feels solid and private. One interesting historical fact is why the Vikings built their beds like this. In a large room like the Longhouse, it is hard to keep all the air warm once the fire burns down. By sleeping inside a wooden box, you use your own body heat to warm up a very small space. The wood acts like a shell, trapping your breath and the heat from your skin inside with you. It is like being a bird in a nest or a bear in a den. It is the warmest way to sleep in the north. Take a moment of silence to look at the small dark space where you will rest. You step up and into the closet. The floor of the bed is covered in a very thick layer of fresh, dry straw. You can smell the scent of the fields as you settle in. On top of the straw is a heavy mattress made of woolen sacks filled with soft bird feathers. When you sit down, you sink deep into the feathers. It feels like you are floating. The straw underneath makes a gentle crush sound, like the sound of dry leaves. It is a very natural and comforting sound that tells your brain it is time to stop moving and start resting. You look around your small wooden room. It is just big enough for you to lie down and stretch out your arms. There is a small shelf at the head of the bed where you place your antler comb and your leather pouch. You feel very tucked away. The walls of the Longhouse are thick with turf, and the walls of your bed are thick with wood. You have 2 layers of protection between you and the winter wind. It makes you feel incredibly safe, as if nothing in the world could ever find you here. The air inside the bed closet is still and holds the faint scent of the pine wood. It is a very clean forest smell. You reach out and pull a heavy woolen blanket over your legs. Even without the fire's direct light, you are not cold. Your body is already starting to warm up the air in the box. You feel a sense of peace that you can only get in a very small, dark place. The wide world of the Longhouse, with its smoke and its stories, feels very far away now. You are in your own private world. You watch the light from the long fire through the gap in the closet doors. It looks like a thin line of orange silk painted on the floor. You see the shadow of someone walking past, their shape large and soft against the light. Then they are gone, and it is just you and the quiet wood. You feel a deep sense of belonging. This bed was built for rest, and it has held many people before you. It is a place of dreams and deep, heavy silence. The night shift is almost over for you. You have done everything you needed to do. You have seen the fire, the animals, and the tools. You have eaten the warm grain and listened to the old tales. Now the only task left is the most important one, to let go. You feel your muscles becoming loose, like string that has been untied. Your feet are warm in the straw, and your head is soft in the feathers. You think about the term bed closet again. It is such a clever way to live. It shows that the Vikings knew how to be cozy. They didn't need a lot of things. They just needed the right things. They knew that a small box of wood and a pile of feathers were all a person needed to defeat the freezing night. You feel a great respect for their simple wisdom. It makes your own life feel simpler and better. You lean back against the wooden wall of the bed. It is not cold. It has soaked up the warmth of the house all day long. You feel like you are being held in a giant, warm hand. You take a slow, deep breath and you can feel the air in the closet getting softer and warmer with every exhale. You are creating your own little summer right here in the middle of the dark. The house makes a small groan as the timbers settle in the cold. It is a friendly sound like a dog shifting in its sleep. You know that the heavy oak beams are holding firm above you. You know that the turf is keeping the frost away. You are tucked into the very heart of the Viking home, in the secret place where the warmth is kept. You feel very, very lucky to be here. You watch the orange line of light on the floor grow a little bit dimmer as the fire settles. The world is getting quieter. The voices in the hall are now just low whispers, and then even they stop. The only thing left is the heartbeat of the fire and the breath of the house. You are ready to close the doors and be alone with the dark. You are ready for the best sleep of your life. You lie back into the deep nest of the lokrekkja, feeling the soft feathers of the mattress settle around your body. But the straw and the feathers are only the beginning of your comfort. To truly stay warm when the fire turns to low coals, you need the weight of the mountain and the forest on top of you. You reach down to the foot of the bed and pull up the first layer of covers. This is a heavy rug made of wool, so thick that it feels like a piece of felt. It has been woven with a long, shaggy pile on one side to trap as much air as possible. On top of the wool, you pull a second layer, and this is where the real warmth lives. This is your micro-history detail for this section. The skinfeldor, or the fur rug. This is a massive cover made from several sheepskins sewn together. The leather side is smooth and painted with simple red patterns, but the underside is a thick, curly forest of soft wool. It is heavy, so heavy that it feels like a friendly hand pressing you down into the bed. This weight is important. It helps your heart slow down and tells your brain that you are safe and grounded. One interesting historical fact is the variety of furs the Vikings used to stay warm. While sheepskin was the most common, a wealthy family might have rugs made of bearskin, wolf, or even the soft fur of the blue fox. These furs were not just for show. Each type of hair has a different way of holding heat. Bear fur is very thick and keeps out the damp, while fox fur is incredibly soft against the skin. Tonight you have the honest, oily warmth of the sheep and the deep, thick fur of a mountain goat. Together, they create a pocket of heat that the winter can never break. Take a moment of silence to feel the heavy, soft weight of the furs on your chest. The sensation is wonderful. Your toes, which were a little bit cool from the walk across the hall, are now tingling as they warm up. You can feel the heat of your own body being reflected back at you by the furs. It is a dry, natural heat. It doesn't feel like the stuffy heat of a modern radiator. It feels like the sun is sitting right on top of your blankets. You shift your legs, and the furs make a soft, muffled hush sound against the wooden walls of the bed closet. The smell of the furs is very comforting. It smells like clean wool, a hint of dried mountain herbs, and the faint, sweet scent of the pine box. It is a very old smell, a smell that humans have known for thousands of years. It reminds you that you are an animal too, finding a warm place to hide away while the frost rules the land. You feel a deep sense of connection to the world around you. You aren't fighting nature. You are using the gifts of the animals to live in harmony with it. You look at the edge of the furs in the dim light. You can see the individual curls of the wool. They are white and cream with bits of grey. You run your fingers through the long hair of the goat skin. It is silky and cool at the tips, but very warm near the leather. You realize that this is the night shift of the natural world. The animals grew this fur to stay alive in the snow, and now that same fur is keeping you alive. It is a beautiful gift. The weight of the covers makes it hard to move, and you find that you don't want to move at all. You feel like a seed buried deep in the earth, or a stone at the bottom of a quiet pool. Your breathing becomes very shallow and slow. Each breath in brings the warm, still air of the closet into your lungs. Each breath out adds more heat to your nest. You are perfectly balanced. You are not too hot and not too cold. You are just right. You think about the storm outside. You can still hear a very faint thrum through the turf walls, a reminder of the wind's power. But under these furs, the wind has no power at all. You could be in the middle of a mountaintop, and as long as you had these sheepskins and this wooden box, you would be as warm as a summer afternoon. It gives you a great sense of confidence. You are not afraid of the winter anymore. You have mastered it with wool and leather. The longhouse is very quiet now. You can no longer see the line of light under the door as you have pulled the blankets up high. You are in a world of soft textures. The scratchy wool of your tunic, the smooth leather of the bedwall, the fluffy feathers beneath you and the heavy fur above you. It is a symphony of touch. It makes you feel very present in your body. You are not thinking about the past or the future. You are just feeling the warmth. You close your eyes and imagine the sheep on the hills. You see them standing in the mist, their thick coats protecting them from the rain. You feel a wave of gratitude for them. Their hard life in the mountains has given you this peaceful night. You feel a similar gratitude for the hunters and the weavers. So many hands work together to make this one bed. It is a very humble and lovely thought to end the day with. You are now truly ready to drift away. Your body is a glowing coal of heat, wrapped in a shell of fur and wood. The night shift has brought you to this perfect moment of rest. The silence of the Longhouse is like a heavy curtain, shutting out the rest of the world. You are safe. You are warm. You are tucked away in the heart of the north, and the furs are holding you close. You reach out one last time from under the heavy furs. Your arm feels the slight chill of the room for a moment, a sharp contrast to the oven-like heat under your blankets. You grab the small wooden handles of the bed closet doors and pull them shut. They move with a gentle, sliding creak of wood on wood. This is the final act of the evening. As the doors click into place, the outside world vanishes. There is no more flickering firelight, no more shadows on the walls, and no more sight of the long hall. You are now in total darkness. This is your micro-history detail for this section, the look. This is the simple wooden latch or sliding bolt on the inside of the bed door. You slide it home with a soft clack. In the Viking Age, this was the ultimate privacy. In a house where 40 people might be living together in one room, the lokrekkja was your only private space. By closing these doors, you are telling the world that your day is done. You are in your own tiny fortress. One interesting historical fact about these enclosed beds is how they handled the air. You might think it would get stuffy inside a wooden box, but the Vikings were smarter than that. They often carved small decorative holes near the top of the doors, often in the shape of stars or small animals. These holes let a tiny bit of fresh air move through the closet while keeping the warmth trapped inside. As you lie there, you can feel a very faint, cool thread of air near your forehead, while the rest of your body is wrapped in a thick, heavy heat. It is the perfect balance for a deep sleep. Take a moment of silence to experience the absolute darkness of the bed closet. The darkness is not scary. It is like a soft black velvet blanket for your eyes. Without anything to look at, your other senses become sharper. You can hear the thump-thump of your own heart. You can hear the straws shifting ever so slightly as you settle your weight. You can smell the deep, rich scent of the sheepskin and the dry, sweet hay. It is a very sensory world, small and perfect. You feel like you are back in the cradle, or perhaps like a bear tucked deep in a mountain cave. The heat inside the closet begins to build up even more now that the doors are shut. Your breath is warm against your face. Every time you exhale, you are adding more warmth to your wooden shell. Within minutes, the air inside the box is as warm as a summer afternoon in the meadows. It is a miracle of simple engineering. Outside the turf walls, the temperature is far below freezing. The ground is like iron, and the water is like stone. But here, behind 2 layers of wood and 4 layers of wool, you are in a tropical paradise. You feel a sense of total freedom. In the darkness, you don't have to be a farmer, a sailor, or a guard. You are just a person resting. The night shift is over for your body, and your mind can now begin its own journey. You feel your thoughts starting to slow down. They become soft and blurry, like the smoke from the long fire. You aren't thinking in words anymore. You are thinking in feelings. The feeling of the soft feathers, the feeling of the heavy fur, the feeling of being completely and utterly safe. You think about the wood of the doors. It is pine, harvested from the great forest of the north. Those trees stood for 100 years in the wind and the snow, growing strong and straight. Now they are standing guard for you. They are holding back the shadows and keeping the warmth close to your skin. You feel a quiet thankfulness for the trees. Everything in this house comes from the land, and the land is taking care of you tonight. The silence is very deep. Because the bed is enclosed in wood and the house is enclosed in turf, you are in one of the quietest places on earth. You can no longer hear the cows or the sheep. You can no longer hear the low murmurs of the people by the fire. You are in a silent bubble. It is the kind of quiet that lets your soul expand. You feel your spirit filling up the small space of the closet, reaching out to touch the wooden walls. You adjust your head on the feather pillow. The feathers make a soft hush sound. You pull the furs up until they touch your chin. The wall is so soft, it feels like a cloud. You are now a perfect circle of warmth. You are the heart of this small wooden box. You feel a great sense of peace, knowing that the doors are barred and the world is shut out. You have done your work, you have seen the night shift through, and now the dark is your friend. The night is moving on toward the midnight hour, deep under the snow, deep inside the turf, and deep behind the wooden doors. You're the warmest thing in the north. You let out a long, slow sigh. The air is sweet and warm. Your eyes are closed, but it doesn't matter because the darkness is the same whether they are open or shut. You are ready to let go of the last thread of wakefulness. You are drifting, floating, and sinking all at the same time. You are safe. You are warm. The doors are closed. The night shift has brought you home. You are tucked away in the heart of history, and the silence is your lullaby. You lie there in the perfect velvet black of your bed closet. Now that the doors are shut, and your world has shrunk to the size of a wooden box, you begin to notice the smallest sounds. Even though the lokrekkja is a fortress of silence, it is not completely still. A house made of turf and timber is a living thing, and at night it speaks in a very low voice. This is the time when the night shift belongs to the building itself. You listen to the house breathe. First, there is the wood. The massive oak posts and the pine rafters have been soaking up the heat of the long fire all day. Now that the fire is low and the air outside is getting even colder, the wood begins to move. You hear a soft crack from somewhere in the ceiling, followed by a long, slow groan from the beams. This is your micro-history detail for this section. The settling. Viking builders knew that wood never really stops moving. It expands in the heat and shrinks in the cold. These sounds are not a sign of weakness. They are the sound of a house that is flexible and strong. It is the house stretching its limbs as it settles into the frozen earth. One interesting historical fact is how the turf walls help with this. Because the walls are made of earth, they are heavy and soft. They don't resist the movement of the wood like stone would. Instead, the turf hugs the timber, moving with it and sealing any tiny gaps that might open up. This is why the house feels so solid despite the creaks. It is a house that knows how to give so that it does not break. You find these sounds very comforting. They are like the sounds of a large ship at sea, reminding you that your vessel is sturdy and well made. Take a moment of silence to listen to the tiny creaks and sighs of the longhouse. Through the wooden walls of your bed, you can hear the very distant, rhythmic sound of the animals at the other end. It is so faint now that it is more of a feeling than a sound, a low-frequency hum that vibrates through the earth floor and up into your mattress. It is the sound of 30 cows and 50 sheep breathing together. It is a slow, steady pulse, like the turning of a great wheel. It reminds you that life is continuing even in the depths of the frozen night. You aren't just one person sleeping. You are part of a giant, warm heap of living things. Then there is the sound of the fire. Even though you are behind closed doors, you can still hear the very ghost of the long fire. It is a soft, papery sound. The sound of wood turning to white ash. Every now and then, a small pop echoes through the hall, a tiny explosion of heat that sounds like a finger snapping in the distance. It tells you that the guardian of the fire is doing their job. The heart is still beating, even if the pulse is slow. You notice the sound of the wind has changed too. It no longer sounds like a whoosh over the grass. Instead, it has become a high, thin whistle as it passes over the smoke hole in the roof. This is the flute of the house. The pitch of the whistle tells you how fast the wind is moving across the fjords. Right now it is a low, mournful note, which means the storm is passing. The heavy snow is likely piling up against the walls, creating an even thicker blanket of insulation. You imagine the snow rising higher and higher, tucking the house into the ground until only the smoke hole is left peeking out. The smell inside your closet is changing slightly as you breathe. It is getting richer and warmer. It smells of your own skin, the clean wool of your tunic, and the deep, earthy scent of the straw. It is a very private smell. In the Viking Age, you spent your whole day with other people working, eating, and sailing together. This time in the dark is the only time you have to yourself. You feel your mind expanding in the quiet. You aren't thinking about the farm or the sea anymore. You are just drifting on the sounds of the house. You feel the weight of your own body. Without the light to distract you, you can feel every point where your skin touches the bed. You feel the softness of the feathers under your back and the heavy, comforting pressure of the sheepskins on your chest. Your hands are folded over your stomach, rising and falling with every slow breath. You feel very real. In the silence, you can hear the rush of blood in your ears, a soft rushing sound like the distant ocean. The house is a masterpiece of peace. You think about the people in the other bed closets along the wall. You know they're there, tucked into their own wooden shells, listening to the same creaks and sighs. You are all part of the same night shift, guarding the warmth together. It is a very communal way to be alone. You feel a sense of love for the people and the building that protects you. You realize that the silence of the Longhouse is not empty. It is full of life, full of history, and full of strength. It is a heavy silence that presses down on your eyelids, making it impossible to stay awake. You're being lulled to sleep by the very bones of the house. The oak, the pine, the turf, and the straw are all singing you a song without words. You let your head sink deeper into the pillow. The feathers make one last crunch as they find the perfect shape for your neck. You are perfectly still. The house continues to groan and whistle, but these sounds are now just a part of your dreams. You are safe in the night shift. The house is watching over you. The turf is holding you. The wood is guarding you. The night is at its deepest point. The world outside is a desert of ice, but inside the shell of the Longhouse, the air is gold and the silence is sweet. You take one last long breath and let it out slowly. You are no longer listening to the house. You are part of the house. You are the warmth, the wood, and the earth. You are finally, deeply asleep. You lie in the total darkness of your bed closet, but in your mind, you can still see the long hall of the house. Outside your wooden doors, the long fire has changed. The bright, dancing yellow flames of the birch logs have vanished, leaving behind something much more powerful and quiet. This is the time of the embers. The fire has settled into a deep, thick bed of glowing coals that stretch the length of the central trench. These coals are a beautiful pulsing shade of crimson and gold. They do not jump or crackle. They simply glow with a steady, intense heat that fills the room like a physical weight. This is your micro-history detail for this section, the curfew. While we use that word today to mean a time to be home, it comes from an old French word, couvre-feu, which means cover the fire. In the Viking Longhouse, the guardian of the night uses a special metal or ceramic cover, or perhaps just a thick layer of grey ash to lightly cover the glowing coals. This is a very smart historical fact. By covering the coals, the Viking night shift ensures that the fire burns very slowly. It stops the wood from turning to cold ash too quickly and keeps the heat trapped inside the coals for the whole night. In the morning, you only need to blow on these hidden sparks to bring the fire back to life. Take a moment of silence to imagine the soft red glow of the dying fire. The room is now at its warmest and its most peaceful. Without the bright light of the flames, the shadows have taken over the hall completely. The carved dragons on the posts are now hidden in the dark, and the smoke layer high above has thinned into a transparent mist. The air is perfectly still. Because the coals are covered, there is no more smoke rising to the roof. The house is holding its breath. You can feel the heat from those coals even through the wood of your bed. It is a radiant warmth that travels through the air like a slow-moving wave. The smell of the fire has changed too. It no longer smells of fresh wood and sap. It now has a deep, toasted smell, the scent of carbon and ancient earth. It is a very dry and clean smell. It reminds you of the stones in a sauna, or the smell of the earth after a very hot summer day. You breathe this scent in through the small gaps in your bed doors. It feels like you are breathing in the very essence of the house. It is a very grounding and honest smell that makes you feel connected to the floor, the walls, and the roof. You think about the person who is sitting by those coals right now. They are the true history watchmen of the night. They sit in the shadows, wrapped in a heavy woolen cloak, watching the red light pulse. They listen for any change in the wind or any stir from the animals. Because of them, you can sleep in total peace. There is a great comfort in knowing that while you are in your private dark, someone is keeping the heart of the house alive. You feel a wave of gratitude for the watcher. Their quiet work is what makes your rest possible. The coals look like a map of a tiny burning city. If you were out there, you could watch the lines of fire move slowly across the surface of the charcoal. It is very hypnotic. You feel your own heart rate slowing down to match that slow pulsing glow. Your body is now so warm that you let one hand drift out from under the heavy sheepskins. The air in the closet is soft and warm, like a gentle touch on your skin. You feel like you are floating in a warm pool of water, weightless and free. You notice that the thrum of the house has become even deeper. With the fire so low, the sounds of the night seem to travel further. You can hear the tiny tink of a cooling stone in the hearth, and the soft rustle of a mouse in the straw far across the room. These tiny sounds only make the silence feel bigger. It is a safe silence. It is the silence of a house that is at peace with itself. The winter is still out there, but it has no power here. The red coals are a wall of heat that the frost cannot climb over. You think about the word safety. In our world we have locks and alarms, but here safety is a bed of coals and a thick wall of turf. It feels more real here. You can feel the safety in your bones. You know that as long as those coals are glowing under their blanket of ash, you are protected. You feel a deep sense of trust in the elements. The wood, the fire, and the stone are all working together to keep you in this dreamlike state. Your mind begins to play with the shapes of the coals. You imagine they are the eyes of the earth, looking up through the floor of the longhouse. They are watching over the sleeping family, making sure the darkness stays kind. You feel a heavy, comfortable pressure behind your eyes. The night shift is drawing to its quietest hour, the time just before the first light of dawn. This is the hour of the deepest sleep, the sleep where you forget who you are and where you are and simply exist. You are tucked away, warm and secret. The furs are heavy, the straw is soft, and the wooden doors are shut. The longhouse is a dark shell of earth and timber, and at its center the red coals are whispering to the stones. You are safe. You are warm. The fire is sleeping, and so are you. The night is almost over, but the warmth will last forever. You let go of the last thought, sinking down into the red gold glow of a perfect rest. You lie in the absolute stillness of your bed closet, feeling the immense weight of the longhouse all around you. In this final hour of the night, you are no longer just a guest. You feel like you are a part of the land itself. The turf walls, which felt so solid when you arrived, now feel like a giant soft hand holding you close to the chest of the earth. You are wrapped in a cocoon of soil, grass, and roots. This is the ultimate shield of the North. This is your micro-history detail for this section, the bond. In the Viking Age, people did not see themselves as separate from the ground they lived on. The same turf that grew the grass for their sheep was the turf that kept them warm at night. There is a beautiful historical fact about these walls. They are alive. The roots of the grass inside the turf blocks continue to grow knit together, making the house stronger every single year. You aren't just sleeping in a building. You are sleeping inside a living, breathing mountain of earth that has been shaped by human hands to be a perfect sanctuary. Take a moment of silence to feel the absolute stability of the earth around you. The silence is so deep now that it has a quality of its own. It is a heavy, earthy silence that blocks out every vibration from the outside world. You know that the freezing ice is still out there, trying to crack the stones and freeze the rivers, but against the metre-thick walls of turf, the ice has no power. The earth is a natural insulator, a word that means it stops heat from moving. It catches the warmth of the long fire and the breath of the cows and holds it right here against your skin. You feel a sense of total, unshakable safety. The smell of the closet is now a perfect mix of all the things you have experienced tonight. There is the sweet dry scent of the hay, the rich oil of the sheepskins, and the very faint lingering perfume of the birch smoke. But beneath it all is the steady, honest smell of the damp earth. It is a grounding scent. It reminds you that no matter how high the wind blows or how deep the snow falls, the ground is always there, solid and unchanging. You feel your own body becoming as still as the earth, your muscles relaxing so completely that you can no longer feel where the bed ends and you begin. You think about the night shift one last time. For thousands of years, humans have sought out places like this: caves, dugouts, and turf houses to hide from the cold. You are part of an ancient tradition of survival. There is no fear here, only a deep respect for the power of the winter and the cleverness of the people who found a way to live within it. You feel very small, but also very significant. You are the spark of life inside the mountain, the warmth inside the ice. The house makes a final, quiet thump as the very last of the logs settles into the ash. It is a sound of completion. The work of the night is done. The fire has given its heat, the animals have given their breath, and the turf has given its protection. You feel a wave of peace so strong it feels like a physical touch. Your eyes are closed, and your mind is a calm, dark pool. You are no longer thinking. You are simply being. You are a part of the Viking winter, tucked away in the safest place on earth. The darkness of the closet is now your whole world. It is a kind, protective darkness that invites you to let go of everything. You are warm, you are heavy, and you are protected by the very bones of the world. You take one slow, shallow breath, tasting the sweet, earthy air. You are ready to drift into the final, deepest part of your sleep, the place where time doesn't exist and the only truth is the warmth of the furs and the strength of the turf. The darkness inside your bed closet begins to change. It is no longer the thick, heavy black of midnight. A very faint, cool light is starting to bleed through the small air holes in your wooden doors. This is the first light of the north, a soft blue and grey glow that tells you the sun is considering its return. You lie very still, not wanting to move a single muscle. You are in that wonderful state between sleep and waking, where you are aware of the warmth of your nest, but your mind is still floating in the quiet of the night. This is your micro-history detail for this final section, the dagsbrun or the daybrow. It is the very first edge of light that appears on the horizon. In the Viking Age, the morning does not start with a loud alarm or the sound of traffic. It starts with the softest change in the air. You hear the guardian of the night move quietly across the earth floor. You hear the chink of a metal bucket and the first few thumps of the cows waking up in the byre. The night shift is coming to an end, and the house is preparing to breathe again. One interesting historical fact is how the house feels at this hour. The turf walls have done their job perfectly. Even though the fire is now just a few glowing stars hidden under a thick blanket of grey ash, the room is still warm. The earth and the timber have held onto the heat of yesterday, acting like a giant battery that has powered the house through the freezing dark. You feel a sense of triumph. You have faced the winter night, and you have come through it, warm and rested. Take a long, final moment of silence to feel the peace of the dagsbrun. The air inside your closet is perfectly still. You take a slow breath, feeling the soft wool of the blankets against your chin. You are filled with a sense of deep, quiet strength. The Longhouse has protected you. The fire has fed you. The stories have filled your mind. You feel like you have been on a very long journey. Even though you have not moved from this spot, you have traveled back through time to find a way of living that is simple, honest, and strong. You listen to the sounds of the morning. A sheep lets out a soft morning bar. The heavy oak door creaks as someone opens it just a crack to check the weather. You hear the muffled sound of a shovel moving snow on the other side of the wall. The world is waking up, but it is doing so with a gentle, slow rhythm. There is no rush. In the winter, the day is short, so every moment of light is precious. You feel a deep gratitude for this slow pace of life. You reach out and touch the smooth wood of your bed door. It feels solid and real. You are ready to face the day, but you know that the warmth of this night will stay with you. You have learned that the night shift is not something to be feared. It is a time for connection, for rest, and for survival. You are part of the story of the turf, the timber, and the flame. As you lie there, the blue light grows a little stronger. It catches the edges of your furs, turning the white wool into a soft, glowing silver. You feel very calm. Your heart is beating steadily, and your mind is clear. You have been guarded by the history watchman, and your watch is now complete. The Longhouse is standing strong, the animals are warm, and the first light of the sun is touching the snow on the roof. The world is beginning to stir, but for you, the heavy weight of the night is still a soft comfort. Your breathing is slow and deep, like the wind moving over the distant hills. You are tucked safely in the heart of the past, where the air smells of birch smoke and the walls are made of living earth. There is no more cold, no more wind, and no more worry. You are drifting on a sea of soft wool and quiet dreams. The hard work of the night is done, and the house has kept its promise to keep you safe. You can let the morning wait just a little longer. Everything is in its right place. The fire is waiting, the wood is strong, and you are exactly where you need to be. The sun is rising. The gates are opening. The watch is ended.